can't see if we're live, so.
Okay. You're good?
Okay, good. Hey guys, what's going on? Brian, of course, here. We got a little bit of a technical issue, so normally I have my TVs where I can see what's going on, but today I don't. So I do have my trusted computer here. Obviously, Jay's in the house over here.
What's up, guys?
And we are going to chat some snake stuff. We're gonna. I've got kind of an interesting thing here. You may notice that I've got some things sitting on my desk here besides my. Of course,
you brought stuff to show and tell.
Some show and tell. So basically, what was happening was earlier. This week, for you guys that don't know with businesses and stuff like that, you have to by law keep your all your paperwork and stuff like that for at least
Finances,
7 years,
stuff, right?
Because they can go back and audit you for up to 7 years. But after 7 years, you can actually get rid of that stuff. Well, ironically enough, we just haven't for a long, long time. So we had a bunch of records and a bunch of different things all the way back to 1999. And so the other night, Lori's like, you know what, we're going to start burning. You don't want to throw that stuff away, right? Because people can find it. So we're burning out in the backyard, So, and so we came across some things that we didn't want to burn. Obviously, when it came to bills and stuff like that from 1999, we didn't we didn't need to keep that as a memory or something like that. But what happened was interesting was we found, number one, I just want to go through some of these things I think that will be very interesting as we go here, as the night goes on. We found a bunch of receipt books, which is interesting, number one, because it's interesting to see what prices were back in 1999.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Number two, it also really showed me the difference of BHB since 1999,
wow.
And the fact that when you go through this book, the majority of these receipts really were wholesale. There's people that, were buying lots of different animals, and now, we don't wholesale at all. I mean, everything is sold retail. The other thing that was pretty cool that we can go over some things I'll talk about as we go is these right here. These are actually what we used to take to shows. I mean, we literally, so this one says cool, show name. It says Columbus. It was November of 1999. Yeah. And I'll just give you an idea. I mean, it's crazy to see this. I mean, by the way, I don't, you can't see it too good, but you can, like this is a show, and this is all the animals we sold at that show. That's it. So I mean, the entire show, I can't imagine this is added up to over $1,500 So it's pretty crazy that we would go through all the hassle and headache, pay for tables, gas, driving, travel, all that stuff.
Hours, yeah.
Literally not sleeping the night before, because what we used to do for that show is we would literally pack the night before or the night of, leave at like 2 a.m. to get there at 6 a.m, then set up and then do the show and then drive home or drive to Chicago, because there was sometimes a show in Chicago the day after. So to do all that for that was crazy.
Yeah,
but some of these things are amazing. Like, this says a snow corn, $20. You can't buy a normal corn snake wholesale for $20 anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's interesting how some of these animals went up exponentially, and then some animals go down exponentially. But probably most of these animals on this list went up, interestingly enough, which is interesting because, again, when you look at mutations in ball pythons or mutations in boas and even some other animals, geckos and stuff like that, they go down over time because more and more are produced.
Yeah, the corn snake one's weird, right? Because why would you go, there's way more corn snakes produced than there was in the 90s, you know what I mean? So I wonder why it dropped in price,
Yeah, it's interesting, how, it went up in price, not down, But snow corn, $20. Wow. Albino Burmese python, $100. Okay, so again, they'll go for I think $250, $300-ish now, something like that. But this was in the heyday of Burmese pythons when there was just so many, $100. But there's a couple on here that are really interesting. I'm going to get to in a second here. One is albino garter snake, $45. So that's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
A pair of blotch king snakes, $70. Wow. And this is retail now. This isn't wholesale. This isn't I'm selling wholesale. This is people walking up to my table,
the booth,
buying a goinai that we now sell for $100 online. They're buying them for $35 off the table.
Wow.
Gray banded kings. This one's great because gray bands you hardly ever see anymore. And I've got a whole list of these. So we can go over these things, but I'm going to obviously, as always, answer your super chat. So if you have questions for me, hit me up in the super chat, so on like that. But gray bands, $40. Yeah, $40.
$40?
$40 for a gray band.
Crazy.
This is probably the most shocking one, though.
Okay, hit me.
We produced baby D'Albert's pythons, white lip pythons back in the day. Obviously, we produced them in 1999. Babies, $125 is what we.
Which
this
is
a
insane.
Sale. Right now, they're like $1,500 or something like that.
Doesn't
and
even
you
make
just
sense.
can't even get them. I mean, like it's almost impossible to find them. And here we are selling them for $125. Ball pythons a pair for $60.
Wow.
Let's see, a normal garter snake. Get this. Now, it's a checkered garter snake, so not a normal. It's a checkered garter snake. $5.
It's like, well, why?
$5.
It's like a worm.
Yeah, we sold a pair of high whites and a pair of lavender corns for $200 for all four, which is pretty cheap. Because now lavender corns would be about that price just
That's
for
what
a
I'm
pair
saying,
of those.
yeah.
Let's see, pair of boas, not too bad, $300. Kenyans, this one's pretty cheap. It's $35. Wholesale, they're like 50, 60, retail 80 or so. Let's see.
This is so
Jungle
crazy.
carpet python, $65. So anyways, that was the Columbus, Ohio show. I thought that was interesting.
That's so wild to me.
And like I said, we can go over a couple of these tonight. There's a handful of things that go back. Like I said, we have the receipt book that I want to talk about a little bit too. And again, I'm not going to give away like who we sold stuff to, but just showing the difference in the way BHB is structured now to then. But let's hit a couple super chats. Like I said, I can monitor a little bit on my computer here. Unfortunately, our TVs are not hooked up for tonight, so I can't really see what's going on. But Jay is checking things out.
I'll be firing away at you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Becky Gallant. Our girl says, yay,
Hey, Becky,
it's
what's up?
podcast time.
It is podcast time, Becky. Thank you so much. I think she said it was rainy there today.
Oh,
this
yeah?
morning. I think that's what she said. I get my days mixed up. Everything blurs together.
You're
but-
you're not alone.
It was yesterday that it was rainy there. I don't know what's going on. Every day
Semantics, right?
Every day is the same. But welcome to the podcast.
Hell yeah. Sierra says, hey guys, I have a hypo-Burmese who is almost a year old, and she's the pickiest eater of all my snakes. It seems
Interesting.
seems to be small for her age. I have tried both live and thawed rats and mice of various sizes. Any advice?
And this was a Burmese, right?
Burm, yeah.
So, see, it's tough because it's tough to give advice because there's so many questions I have to ask you. Like you said, you've tried frozen, live, mice, rats. My question to you would be, well, what happened? It's obviously a year old, so it's eating something.
Yeah.
So my question would be like, what does it eat the best, right? So when you ask me, what do you think? I would then ask you a question saying, number one, what's the temperatures? What's the humidity? What's the cage requirements? Do you have a hide spot in there for it? How is it? Is it cage defensive? Is it tame? How much are you handling it? When you did offer a mouse, did it eat a mouse live, frozen? You know what I mean? There's
She
all
should
these
call
questions.
BHB, no?
Yeah, and that could be the best thing to do, to be honest with you, because it's difficult to be a one-way
It's a
thing,
conversation.
Yeah, it's like I probably, for every question you ask, I probably have a question to ask you
Yeah.
until we get to a point where we've narrowed down what's happening. Burmese pythons can sometimes be a little finicky. Like Marshmallow was a good example of this.
true.
When he was a baby, this was our ivory Burmese python that's at the Reptarium. When he was a baby, he struggled a little bit, and he didn't eat real regularly. But then he kind of got out of it, and now he's crushing.
Right,
I mean, now he crushes. It's
growing,
so, so that might be the case too. 99% of berms are like, garbage disposals. They'll eat anything they want. But every now and then you will get a finicky one. But again, you want to make sure your temperatures, humidities are correct. You want to make sure your caging is correct. It has everything that it wants. It's happy, not stressed out.
Don't handle it
And
too
then-
much.
Yeah, and then what was the results of offering said live mouse, live rat, whatever. Sometimes a great trick that has been used. I think Tracy Barker is the one that came up with it many years, probably 25 years ago. Was actually taking a frozen, in this case probably a small rat, I would imagine for a yearling. It might be a medium rat, I don't know, but and dipping it in chicken broth.
Oh, interesting.
And,
I never heard that.
Yeah, and sometimes that can do it because in the wild, Burmese do eat a lot of poultry.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So like, you could also feed them chicks too, if you wanted to feed them a chick. But probably better to feed a rat that's dipped in chicken broth. So those are things that I would test. But if what I've just given you advice, if that helps, great. If it doesn't, call BHB and we'll be happy to help you out.
Melissa says, hi, Brian and Jay. How is Zeus doing? Love you guys.
Hey, Melissa, thank you for asking. I wish I had better news. We took him to our vet for a second checkup today, and she wrapped him again, so he's back in a wrap, and we have an appointment next Saturday with a specialist. And she said that, the paw is definitely still very swollen, which it shouldn't be after 2 weeks, and that there could be some ligament damage. It could just be a matter of having to get the fluid out, get the fluid.
Draining it.
But draining it, or we may have to have surgery. So that's not good. It's not good. So he messed himself up pretty good. So I'm pretty bummed, and I just feel bad for him. He's such a great dog. He's so friendly and so happy, and he wants to play. And he hasn't been able to really play hardly at all. We've been keeping him kind of as stationary as possible for 2 weeks. I mean, he's obviously still moving around and stuff like that, going outside, but we're not letting him run around and play. And
he loves that.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it looks like we have at least another week before we'll know any real definitive answers. And I'm assuming the specialist will probably do like a the doggy MRI or whatever they do to make sure there's no ligament damage. And if there is something and needs surgery, then that's the next step.
So let's fingers crossed, then hope for the best, right?
Exactly. Let's hope that.
He looked handsome as hell today, though, I will say.
Yeah. Jay came over today. We shot a HelloFresh spot. So, so thank you for asking, Melissa, but keep him in your prayers, please.
Mac Lorenzo, the Mac attack.
We were just talking about you today, Mac.
I know. I ended up messaging him. He's doing a bit better. Still has some ringing, but he's getting through it. He threw, $5 just for love.
Well, thanks, Mac.
I want to shout something out for him, if that's okay, Brad.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Please.
Let me just get it pulled up on my phone real quick. So, as Mac's going through some shit, you know what I'm saying? He's trying to keep himself motivated, and he wants to start something called Fauna Talk.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And this is bridging the gap between animal rights and the right to care for animals. So pretty much he wants to make like a group that would allow, fish people, bird people, reptile people, all to fight for all of our rights too. And I think that's beautiful. So when he does that, end up supporting him,
Well, I'll definitely support you, Mac. This isn't the first time that's been tried.
Of course.
Unfortunately. I will be 100% supportive of you. I will say you've got an uphill battle, because for whatever reason, fish people and bird people and mammal people and reptile people don't seem to want to give a shit about each other.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
We are so much better as a community, because obviously if you join those forces together, that makes a huge lobbying group. But unfortunately, this is something that we've tried probably 4 or 5 times now.
Wow,
in the last
really?
15 to 20 years, and it's just never taken off. I mean, never. And really, to be honest with you, even PJAC, the Pet Advisory Joint Council, that's what it is, right? I mean, it's for all animals. I mean, PJAC is that advisory council for all animals. But of course, they're more for the pet trade,
right.
As opposed to the pet keeper. But even that is very limited, right? Because PJAC isn't very successful. PJAC's been around for a long, long time, and it's not extremely successful, even to the point where their largest clients were that was donating the most money were Petco and PetSmart and Pet Supplies Plus, and they ended up breaking off and joining their own or building their own lobby group. So now PetSmart and Petco have together, they have their own lobby group, so they aren't even involved in PJAC anymore. So it's a difficult thing. So Mac, I don't want to discourage you. I want you to go forward with this, and if you can do it, and I'll back you 1,000%. It's just a weird thing. It doesn't make any sense. Now, maybe what you could do, Mac, I'm just brainstorming on the fly here, is try to get the proper influencers involved. And what I mean is maybe like Joey from DIY, Paul Cafaro on the fish side, Predator, Rod from Predator's Fish or Fins. I'm sorry.
Max Strong type people.
Well, Mac, that's a different level. I don't think that's going to work because he's more big cats, and you definitely don't want them to be involved. You know what I mean? Because if you get reptiles, fish, small mammals, and then big cat, you're screwed. You know what I mean? Because you just aren't winning that battle. So I would just get influencers that like a bird influencer and so like that, and maybe then if you can join these forces together, maybe with their influence they can help grow that, because it's something that it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's like it's so obvious.
But it's for some reason we've tried it, and I've been involved in the groups that have tried it, and it just hasn't worked. You know what I mean? Like the fish people just don't care about reptile people. The bird people don't care about fish people, and they just care about their part of the
so
hobby.
short-sighted.
And
you know?
it is a shame because obviously that, you know, like when the bill HR 669 came about, that was going to try to ban all non-native animals. Period. You know, I mean, it was like all fish, birds, dogs, cat, I mean, you name it. And that was like when we came together for the first time and fought this House bill. This is like, you know, before, now we're inundated with bills constantly. This was like the first major federal bill that was proposed. And then we did get all these factions of animal people fighting for the same rights, and it was a beautiful thing, and we crushed HR 669. As a matter of fact, the agricultural committee that hosted the HR 669 bill said it was the most responded bill that had ever. This is the government. This is federal. This isn't state. The most responded bill they had ever had in committee ever.
Wow.
You know,
you wouldn't think that.
And so it just would make sense after that. You would think that we would join together, but then we didn't. We just all broke apart again. And when something comes up and it's like, oh, well, it's reptile people, I don't give a shit. You know,
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, stupid.
It's a fish problem. That ain't my problem. You know, oh, it's a bird problem. I don't care.
People don't
and reptile
man.
people do it too. You know, if there's a bird legislation, how many reptile people give a shit about that?
Right.
And it's a shame because we should. You know, we're all animal people. So, Mac, work hard. I'd love for it to be successful because if it is successful, it would be a great thing for all.
Change the world, yeah.
It would be a great thing for all animal hobby and pet hobbies. So
we got your back.
Yeah, I'm right with you, man. Just keep going, brother.
Tiffany says, hey, my beautiful people, super excited for egg cutting to be here. Let's get them palmettos out and get some frillies, and this year will be made. Just curious, how much do you think those frillies would be?
You know, I mean, seriously, you know, number one, I never count my eggs before they're laid, you know, and Lilith has been a weird one, you know. I mean, we've had two years ago we crushed and we had, some great eggs and great hatch. Last year we had one really good clutch, but only 2 babies hatched for some reason. I don't know. The other ones were full term dead in the egg. So
I remember
we incubated
that,
in the exact same way that we incubated before, so we have no idea what happened. And then she didn't lay any for her legs after that, where she laid 2 clutches the year before. She looks like she's gravid now. You know, I mean, as far as pricing, you know, I mean, typically they're, you know, I mean, the import ones that are captive hatch that come in for about $100.
Yeah.
But that's, again, captive hatch, and many of those don't. But it's not like it's going to be crazy expensive, you know, anything like that. Maybe $150, $200 at the most, you know, something on that line. So fingers crossed. And yeah, it's great to have cutting season back. Hopefully you guys don't get bored with it. You know, it's we put out obviously, was it today? Was the video?
Today was
today's video, and it did okay. I mean, it's not crushing. But it did all right. You know, I mean, it's a weird time right now on YouTube. You know, it's things that crushed a year ago don't seem to crush as much this year. So we'll be cutting eggs for sure, and hopefully people will like it. But we'll probably be a little bit more cautious about overwhelming people with egg cutting.
Yeah, be a little more frugal, right?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But thank you.
EB says, hey, Brian, so for months I have searched all over for a rhino rat snake and can't find them anywhere. Do you ever sell them or know anyone that does? I've wanted one for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we do when we produce them. You can look at R&B Reptiles. I believe they are producing them this year, Ryan and Ben. They're out in New Jersey, so give them a shot. I don't know, because they got some of theirs from us a few years back.
Right.
And I think they produced last year, and I think they'll probably produce again this year. We may not have any this year because we're trying, but I don't know if they're weird animals. Sometimes you could breed like 3 females and all 3 go. Sometimes you breed 3 females and get no eggs. And right now we don't have any gravid females, but it's still early in the year. So if we do have something, we will be selling them.
V-Dog says, I just got my vaccine yesterday. I'm so happy, but I do feel like I've been struck by a freight train. So sore everywhere.
Wow, it's so crazy how everyone reacts differently.
Vastly different.
You know, first off, I'm glad that you got it.
Congratulations.
It is interesting to see, the Reptarium last weekend was like the first weekend that very few people, almost everyone had masks on.
Yeah.
But there were a few people, and I was just upstairs.
Today was a good one.
Today, I would say there's about 50% of the people.
Dude, I was hyped. I walked out the door before, and I looked to my left, and I didn't realize it at first, but as I walked out the door, I'm like, oh my God, there's people don't have masks.
Very few people had masks.
So cool.
I'd say about 50% of people did. Now, again, we're going on the honor system here, we're asking people, if you're not vaccinated, wear masks, but I'm not going to, put him under a light and
Put a magnet to their
interrogate him,
arm, yeah.
What do you got? Let me see what you got in there.
Show me your bags.
Prove it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping people are smart, and I think that, again, we won't get into a long debate, but, vaccination is definitely going to be the way to getting past this pandemic.
Hell yeah.
And I hope that the 50% of the people that were upstairs have been vaccinated, but I can tell you what, it was absolutely beautiful to see smiling faces.
That's exactly what I felt, man.
It was, it warmed my heart. And when this podcast is done, I'll go back up there and spend the last couple hours of the night with those people as well. And, it's great. It's great to take pictures with people with a smile and not have to say, I'm smiling under my mask.
Yeah.
Tired
of saying
listen,
that, yeah.
Listen, V-Dog, I'm glad that you got your vaccine. It's weird, again, I had very little reaction to the first one.
Pretty much nothing.
I don't think anyone at the shop had any reaction to the first shot.
No.
So I hope but the good news, V-Dog, is that everyone I know that has had a reaction to the first or second shot typically lasts one day,
Yep.
For the sick feeling. I actually, at my second vaccine, did have a lot of what they would call COVID cloud. I had cloudiness for 4 or 5 days, actually, where it just seemed like I was a little off, not quite myself. And It took 4 or 5 days to get over. But I never had a fever. I didn't have soreness. I didn't have aches. I didn't have anything. So I bet you tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll feel great.
And that was her. That's
that was
awesome.
the first shot.
That was her first.
Yeah.
I go for my second one next Thursday.
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
so it's exciting. Most people I know that have had the second have been fine too.
Yeah.
So worst case, you might feel a little yucky for a day.
Ooh. Dope Skins Reptile says, just hatched a clutch where the mom was a mimosa and the dad is a black pastel butter ghost.
Okay.
What would the all gene snake look like compared to a mimosa black pastel?
So it's really difficult, right? Because like you said, the mimosa and the black pastel are going to be the thing that interact well together, right? Because, the black pastel or cinnamon pastel and champagne often has white, ringing and stuff like that. Sometimes it can be 10% white. Sometimes it can be 90% white, almost like a pied, really. So it's an interesting thing that those are almost allelic to one another, right? So right there you have, obviously everything's going to be ghost, obviously. So you've got the ghost, you've got the champagne, you got the black pastel. It's the lesser. He said lesser, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
butter,
butter. Yeah. Jeremy said butters and lessers are the same.
I know. I'm with you.
But that's the tough one because really a lesser mimosa or a lesser champagne is not very easily identified.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when you put that ghost in, because again, the lesser / butter is going to lighten things and the hypo lightens things. So it's going to be really hard to see what is the all gene animal, to be totally honest with you, unless you're lucky enough to hatch a ghost or a mimosa black pastel and then a mimosa lesser black pastel right next to one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be able to see one's going to be lighter than the other one. But that's pretty much all you're going to see. It's not going to be a shocking difference.
Mr. Simple Man, he threw 50 and says,
man,
hope
you,
everyone's doing well. I'm out fishing, but hope you all have a great night.
Have fun fishing, dude.
Fishing and hanging out
man,
with us.
my son-in-law was out fishing today with his friends at our old place.
No way, really?
Yeah,
he's loving it over there, huh?
He's loving it, man. He's right on the lake.
He's like, no problem, I'll watch the cows for you.
Yeah, don't worry, don't come out here ever. I got it.
I got it all taken care of.
Got it. But
awesome.
I keep threatening that I'm going to learn to fish, but I don't know how to fish. I don't understand. I talk to my son-in-law and he tells me, like all this stuff, and I'm
it's all just jargon.
I'm
right?
like, don't you just put a worm on a hook and throw it in the water? I mean, like what?
Yeah, I know, it's
I guess
crazy.
there's like different lures. There's different, it seems like, to me, it seems like a lot to learn, for recreation, So, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll.
But you know what? It's not a lot to learn. It's like you get to learn a lot. For your recreation, that's a cool thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm not going to do it. I might do some fishing this year. We'll see.
That'd be awesome. Michael says, a few weeks ago I lost my labor job. Brian J. Chat cheered me up. Proud to say I now have a remote sales job for advertising. Thanks for the boost.
That's awesome, man. Good job, man.
Congrats, man.
And that's the thing. Listen, I always say, I heard this a long time ago, and it was probably one of the most prophetic things that I remember hearing. And it's like in this, it was like related to either jobs or say a girlfriend or something like that. And it said if you lose your job and you're like really depressed, or you didn't get that promotion and you're really down, or your girlfriend breaks up with you and you're really crushed, how do you know that losing that job, not getting that promotion, having your girlfriend leave you, how do you know that didn't mean that you met the girl of your dream.
Opened
or
up that
the
door.
job. If you didn't lose this job, you didn't get your remote salesman job, that you're going to be more happy and maybe make more money at, or whatever the case may be. And if you didn't get that promotion, how do you know that maybe another job promotion didn't come up, that if you would have got that promotion, you wouldn't have done that?
That's true.
So the point is that rather than dwelling on the fact that, oh gosh, I've done these things, it's almost like everything that happens is an opportunity for something new that happens, that if it would have went a different way, you would have missed the opportunity. And so I remember hearing that years ago, and it's something that is really stuck in my mind for a long time. So sometimes when things don't go well, I'll often say that to myself, like, yes, this didn't go well, but how do I know that because it didn't go well, there was this whole new opportunity that was raised that wouldn't have been there.
You wouldn't have been available.
And it sounds like that happened for you at least, and hopefully you're happier with this remote salesman job, and instead of a labor job, certainly sounds like
certainly sounds like a grow up.
It sounds like a better situation. Although some people like labor, which is fine. I like to labor, so. It is what it is.
Game of Morph says, thank you and bless your family for giving us a good morning for the last 3 years. Love that shirt. Sing some egg time for Game of Morphs.
Egg time.
Egg time.
I love egg time. And of course now, oh, by the way, I saw that my diverse vlogs were in the house.
That's right, baby.
Our buddy Joshua is the one that's responsible for all the egg songs. I saw him comment something in the vlogs. I normally don't get a chance to really see the chat as close as I do now, because I just see the super chats.
And usually I'm like hovered over one, so it's the same thing forever.
Yeah, so there you go. I give Josh some love, because he's a good dude. And,
he makes killer stuff.
Yeah, he did a show last night where the bass player of Disturbed was there.
What?
Yeah,
what do you mean? Really?
I guess, he was the bass player for Disturbed, was hanging out.
Wow, that's awesome.
At the bar he was playing. He's from Texas, so Texas, they don't give a shit about nothing down there.
Not nothing.
They ain't got no COVID down there.
But
it's great to see. Even my buddy from the Tyler Bryant band posted an Instagram story. They're from Nashville, and he posted an Insta story today, and he said that he was out at the first. They weren't playing a show, although they are slated to go out on tour, I think in July,
so cool.
which is cool. And these guys toured with Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses and Kiss and major acts. AC/DC, they were the opener for AC/DC for the world tour, and
that's huge.
Huge.
And
they haven't played since I think he said December of 2019
Oh,
was
man,
their last show.
They're getting back out there, huh?
So they're getting back out there. It doesn't sound like it's a monster. Oh, I shouldn't say it doesn't sound like. I mean, it's a festival that had about 10 or 12, and I think it was Black Cherry. That is that Buck Cherry?
Buck Cherry. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Black Cherry's the ice cream.
I love that stuff.
I
Delicious.
love that ice cream. It's very good. But Buck Cherry was the headliner, so it's a pretty good show. But they're one of like 8 or 10 bands that are playing the festival. So, but anyways, last night I saw the picture of him. My buddy at a concert,
Oh, that's
and
so cool.
and it was cool, man. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome, man.
It's definitely nice to see things starting to become normal. We were even saying today, there was a little food truck pulled up across the street, so we went across the street, and just to see people without masks, like I said, if you woke up today, like out of a coma, you wouldn't really know that it wasn't, that the whole pandemic happened in most places. You know?
You would probably think that, even in a place like Michigan that are still pretty tight, not super tight, but tighter than a lot of the parts of the country. You would probably think like something weird was going on, but you wouldn't feel that weird. Whereas last year, if you woke up, I remember me telling you, what was the actor that I told you like went on a 7-day no talk, no cell phone retreat?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh my god,
but
this was like a really big actor. He was an Academy Award. He won an Oscar 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Gosh, wish I could remember what his name is. Like long hair, kind of.
Russell Brand?
No, he wouldn't have won an Oscar for sure.
What's his name?
But he looks kind of a little bit like Russell Brand, to be honest with you. But anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So he's a little bit of like one of those he looks like he's a yoga guy. You know what I mean? And so apparently, right around like when COVID happened, he went on like a 7 or 10 day retreat to Northern California. There's like no talking for like 7 to 10 days
my God.
at all. Like no talking, just meditating.
Is that called sabbatical or something?
Something like that. I don't know what it is. But so he went for 7 to 10 days, no talking, no cell phone, no communication with anyone. Even the people there didn't talk to one another.
Weird.
And then he said he felt so zen that as he drove from Northern California back to Hollywood or LA or wherever he lived, he didn't even have the radio on. Like he was just driving in peace, because it was just like, and he said he got home and he was like, what the fuck happened? It's like all of a sudden the whole world was shut down. He like literally was like,
I'm never going on a sabbatical again.
Yeah, he said he like came out of an apocalyptic, he's like, what happened to the world, And so you can imagine that shock we saw it start to where we go.
And it was still a shock.
Yeah, and it was still a shock. Could you imagine just being like immediately like, what do you mean that you can't go outside?
I remember hearing a story about a dude that was in a coma for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And wakes up and like Donald Trump's president and like the world's in chaos. There's like riots all over the world.
They got to make a movie about that.
Yeah, that's a fun. That would be a classic hit.
Got to be a movie. So all right.
Joseph says, "Hi Brian. Been a fan of you and Ivy for over a year. Thank you. And Chandler's Wildlife got me into reptiles, learning a lot from both of you."
That's awesome. I was just talking to Chandler this morning via a message. We weren't talking on the phone, but we were messaging back and forth. And we both can't wait to get together, and do something.
It's been long overdue.
Exactly what we'll do. I don't know. I don't know. He had an idea like a year ago of something for us to do that just can't really happen at this moment. But he wanted to do something like that was really outlandish. That's like no one will ever think that me and you are going to do our first collab doing this.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was a great idea. It's just not going to happen right now. But maybe sometime down the road. But in the meantime, I know we're going to Florida in July. The middle part of July, and we'll definitely meet up with Chandler, and hopefully we'll both do videos. Hopefully I'll do something with maybe his king cobras, and I don't know what video I would do with him, but vice versa, you know what I mean. But hopefully you'll see we'll see each other on each other's channels.
Let Roses Burn says, my friend's getting a red tail, and I asked her if it was a true Colombian. She's not sure, said it's more brown than red. They're different localities, right?
Yeah, so if it's brown, it's definitely either a Colombian or a Central American. Most likely a Colombian, if they call it a red tail, because most people don't call red tails Central Americans very often, whereas a lot of people do call Colombians red tails. In actuality, Colombians are common boas. They're not really red tail boas. Red tail boas are constrictor, which is the more pure species. And then, of course, there's a whole, there's Suriname and Guyana and Brazilian and Peruvian, all kinds of different stuff like that. Whereas the Colombians are actually constrictor imperator, and they're the more brown, still all beautiful snakes. They all look very similar. It's just that the true red tails have that really burgundy red tail that a Colombian doesn't have. Yeah,
it's almost like if this is going to be a funny one, but Chrysler 300, it's like a baller car until you're next to a baller car. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you're like, okay, they're both beautiful, but you could see the difference.
And the true red tails are quite a bit more expensive.
Yes.
So chances are pretty good that your friend is getting a Colombian.
Mama Tomsky says, hey, this mama wants to truly thank you both for keeping us smiling, and with the new egg time, love ZZ Top.
Yeah, that's
a banger.
It's a good one, It's and we've got 2 more things coming out soon. That Josh hooked us up on. so
get ready.
I actually listened to him just briefly yesterday. It's just been like the last day and a half or so has been a blur. There's been a lot going on, and it's been a little bit hard to even get on top of. But we'll be rolling those guys out here soon too. So just having fun, guys. I think that it's important to not take yourself too seriously.
That's right.
And I know, I can get racked on a little bit about it because, I don't know. I don't know how. Listen, I don't know how I'm supposed to act to make people happy.
There is no way.
Like if I goof around, people think I'm, not professional. If I'm professional, people think I'm too serious and egotistical. I don't really care. I'm just trying to be myself.
Just be you.
And we're just trying to have fun with this whole thing and not be too serious. Listen, we clean snake shit for a living. And we're not fucking putting, people on Mars. We're not Elon Musk. So for me, it's just, have a good time, and that's the way it goes.
Timothy says, just picked up a 3rd yellow anaconda and a Cuban nightingale pair from an expo today.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Those are a couple good those are a couple mean animals.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about adding either to the reptarium?
So we had a nightingale for a couple years here named Jumper. And he literally just died of old age. I mean, they do only live about 8 to 10 years or so like that. And when we got him, he was already pretty long in the tooth. But he lived for a couple years and thrived. And he was actually pretty chill. The reason I was laughing about night owls is that they're typically not friendly. You know, they like to bite and stuff like that. Jumper was actually a pretty good animal. I mean, it didn't really bite, and it was actually relatively good. It liked to jump, hence the name Jumper. And I miss him. I really like him. I think Anolis as a whole are very underrated lizard, you know, because there's a lot of really cool Anolis out there. And unfortunately, we can't pull up pictures tonight, or at least I can't pull up pictures tonight. But there's a lot of cool Anoles out there that I would love to work with, to be totally honest with you. Even like, you know, the false chameleon stuff and so on like that. There's, you know, Jamaican Anoles. I mean, there's a lot of really cool Anoles. So, and I love night anoles too. I think they're really cool. But it's funny because, you know, the night anoles are known for being assholes, and then yellow anacondas are typically known for being pretty aggressive. So you picked a couple animals that are typically cantankerous. But I have had yellows that have been pretty good. I've thought about adding yellow anacondas, and I think I might in the new expansion.
Interesting. Okay.
I could see myself doing it. They stay smaller, so you don't need as big of an enclosure, but you can still do a really cool water feature. I think one of the things I'll do a lot of in this new expansion is a lot of water stuff. Yeah. I really want to do a lot of water stuff. I just think you know, water features in enclosures are just so cool, and I can see myself doing a lot more of that, to be totally honest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, yeah, I could see adding yellow anacondas for sure.
That's all I have on supers for right this moment.
I think that Matt just jumped on Sasselback.
Oh, there we go. So you got yours before mine. Sasselback says, Xander and I are watching. Just wanted to say hi.
Hey, I actually was talking to Matt just before I got to the Reptarium today.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, it's crazy to think that Xander is I remember when he was born, and he's, you know, now I'm seeing pictures of him as, you know, older. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like,
that's crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's because me and Matt have been friends for many, many years, so it's good. But you know, back to a couple other things here. First off, I wanted to jump into this as you guys are, if you guys have any other super chats, hit me up. But these two books here kind of go back to, you know, I always talk about like legends of reptiles and you know, the history of reptiles. And I'm very fortunate that, you know, as a guy that's been in it for 30 something years, that I've been through this all. I've seen it and I've lived it. Right. And that's one of the things I like to share with people is that experience that I've had with this stuff. Well, my buddy Russ Gurley sent me these books. It's actually a set. And one is called Bert Langenwarf, which is the articles 1971 to 2008, and this is volume 2. Volume 1 is actually The Lizard Man, The Life and Adventures of Bert Langenwarf. And for those of you guys don't know, obviously Bert passed away in 2009, but he was a very eccentric lizard keeper, but really legendary. I mean, like, it's a shame that probably so many people don't know who Bert Langenwarf is. And he literally, I mean, you could go through this book, and I'm just paging through this book, and it is crazy. You guys got to pick this book up. I mean, literally, again, Lizard Man by Russ Gurley and Bert Langenwarf. It comes in a set of 2. I think you can buy them separately, possibly, but, you know, I'd buy the set of 2. It's phenomenal. I mean, I've just been paging through it. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but I absolutely will enjoy reading this because it's unbelievable. And some of the pictures in here, you know, are just crazy. This guy would go around and he would sometimes even garbage pick screen doors and
so cool
windows and stuff like that. And then he would build enclosures into the side of the hills of his property. And he so kept, cool, I mean, he bred all kinds of really, really hard to breed lizards, or at least uncommon lizards, when no one else was breeding them. You know, I mean, literally all the jeweled lacerdas and melanistic lacerdas,
wow,
and false chameleons and agamids, all kinds of different agamid stuff that, again, now you never even see them. And he was producing them by the hundreds and hundreds of babies. And it was all outdoors. And he was just always this guy that continuously was building, this massive collection of lizards.
Yeah, that's so sick.
And it's really cool. So I wish if Bert was still around, he would definitely have been one of my guests on the Legends of Reptile series that we hope we can launch at some point, because he was a legend. And I remember the handful of encounters that I had with Bert, just talking with him, and it was pretty crazy. You know what I mean? He was like European, maybe even Eastern European. I'm not sure exactly where he came from, but he still had a pretty good accent, but he was one of those like hard working, no frills, didn't like seem to want to take any credit for doing so much in the hobby, and it was definitely a huge loss when he passed away. And of course his collection of lizards, which was probably the most extensive collections of lizards quantity wise probably in the country, maybe in the world. And it kind of got broken down, where it was like, some got sold here, some got sold there, and stuff like that. And then most of those lizards just never produced again, because they just went to people that didn't do the same thing he did. And so this is the story, and it's a huge, 2 huge volumes. They're, gosh, I don't even know. This is
so cool though.
571 pages, the first book, and the second book is 991 pages. So those are 2 impressive books to read.
Yeah, Brian was showing me a little bit of it, yesterday, I think, right?
Yeah.
And awesome looking stuff. Now, did he sell his animals, or was he more just in it for breeding them?
Yeah, he did sell them, but I think listen, he was very eccentric.
Yeah.
And this was before this was really before the internet. Certainly, the internet was around when he passed away, but he was not on the internet. He didn't have a website or Facebook or anything like that. I think he probably wholesaled most of his stuff to,
That's what it would seem
people.
Like,
Again, I remember one of the encounters I had with him. We were set up at the Orlando show. This was before it moved to Daytona. And he was like right across from us. So we had this big booth, flashy booth, that had banners and lights and, all this crazy stuff that we used to do when we were set up. And then Bert had just this one 8-foot table with the tablecloth and like a bunch of stacked up 10-gallon aquariums with all these really cool lizards. Like really cool lizards, that probably the coolest lizards in the entire place. But I remember standing there, because I was right across from him the whole weekend, and like people would just walk by, and like we didn't even stop to look at his stuff because it was just, there was no lights, there was no frills, it was just like him and his wife standing with a bunch of lizards, and and I don't think people even realized how cool of the stuff he had in those aquariums were, because they just thought he was probably a junk dealer or something like that, and here he was, one of the most iconic lizard guys in the world.
Breeders,
and I remember walking over many times during the weekend and just chit-chatting with him, and he was a really pleasant guy. Really passionate, very into it, and it was really cool, man. It was cool that was one of the times that we probably spent the most time that whole weekend, because we had time to chit chat, during when things were slow and stuff. And but unfortunately, I never had a chance to go visit his place in person. It would have been a heck of a thing, but this, I'm so glad that Russ took the time to actually chronicle this guy, because he would have been lost, right?
You're not wrong. He would have
been lost, because I think 99% of people don't even know that he existed, and he was a true legend. And there's a lot of Bert Langenwarfs out there, and that's the thing I love about it. Guys like Frank Reedus that hardly anyone knows about, John Ruiz, who had the largest collection of reptiles for many, many years. Gary Sipperly, who's a guy that I am going to try to hunt down.
I've heard you talk about him a lot.
And bring on the podcast sometime, because he's a younger guy. He's not much older than me. And so he's probably, well within, like, let's do it. He's a good dude. And there's a few of the other guys like that I'd like to hunt down. I know that Ryan and Ben from R&B had Bob Applegate on like a Zoom.
No way, really? That's cool.
I'm one of those, and so I'd love to bring Bob out, because I think he is a character.
Now, is that Applegate Gopher?
Yeah, Applegate Gopher.
That's so cool.
There's Applegate Pyros. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and Bob is, I've known him since I was young. Obviously, he was a legend when I was a kid. Like when I got into start getting into breeding, he was the about as big as it got. He was in the top 3 biggest names in the business. And I met him when I was 18, and And he always treated me really well, and I kind of known him ever since. But I haven't talked to him in years. He doesn't. I don't even know if he keeps any reptiles now. To be honest with you, he he's probably in his 70s now.
Oh, wow.
I'm imagining. But it sounds like I didn't see that podcast at R&B, but it sounds like he was, still as fiery as ever. And Bob was he was a character. He was a firefighter. As a profession, and then bred snakes on the side, and then invested the money that he made with snakes, really basically in real estate, and became a multi-millionaire.
Smart.
So he was. I think the last time I talked to him, he was very, very eager to tell me that he had $6 million in the bank. He wasn't shy. I think that while I stood there and talked to him at a Texas show, I think 4 or 5 people heard that he had $6 million in the bank. Because every time
eventually someone's gonna people are gonna start getting ideas, man. You gotta chill out.
It seemed like every time a new person would walk in the circle, within minutes he'd figure out a way to tell people he had $6 million. It was a kind of an interesting story. But at the same time, I was with my buddy Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And
how is he, by the way? I haven't seen him since like the first time I came up here.
Yeah, so I talked to him. He's a photographer. He was our director of photography on Brian in the Wild in Africa.
Right.
And me and him have been friends since he was a kid. We actually, weirdly enough, I met Aaron, who lives locally. I met him at the Daytona show.
No way, really?
Florida. Yeah, down in Florida. He was like 12, 13 years old. His brother was maybe he was 14, his brother's 12, something like that. But his mom brought them there because they were reptile people, and then ultimately they were like, "Oh my God, you're from Detroit too." So, and then they ultimately ended up like volunteering for me for a while, and they both worked for me for a short period of time.
So crazy.
And then ultimately, Bob, his younger brother, is like some I don't even know, some huge doctor thing that is like. I don't even know what the name of what he does is, but it has to do.
Or something.
Well, no, he's like he's like a.
No, he does research, right?
Yeah, he's like a research
oncologist.
Yeah, he's like
a
but yeah, I don't think it's actually an oncologist because even though he does cancer stuff, he does like a clinical trial. Doctor.
Yeah, like experimental treatments, right?
But which takes like I think he's still in school and he's like 40 something years old.
Yep.
And he's still in school.
It'll do it.
So I mean that's how long it takes to get the position. But he's working while he's in school. But he's been working like he worked at the Dana-Carver Cancer Center for a number of years and stuff like that. So he's been working for years and years, but he's still in school. And then of course Aaron actually is part owner of a production company that does big like Ford Motor Company and stuff like that, ads and stuff like that. But so he's doing well. He's going to be in Florida with us.
Get out, really?
Yeah, he's coming down to Florida.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
That'll be great.
Glad.
But so Aaron was with us that night with Bob Applegate, and afterwards, I didn't even realize this. As Bob and by the way, I hope Bob doesn't listen to this because he'd be like, "Fuck Brian, I'm not going on.
I ain't going on your stupid podcast.
Going on your stupid podcast." No, I love Bob, I really do. But it was funny. Aaron told me afterwards that as he was like boasting about being so wealthy and stuff like that, that the whole night he was taking beers from Aaron.
Yeah, dude.
And then get this. When Aaron's beers ran out from his cooler, Bob went and got a 6-pack, but didn't share them with anybody.
That's how you stay rich, right there. Listen, that's how you make money, people.
He only kept those 6 beers for himself.
It was one per each million in his bank account.
Yeah. So, but he'll be a fun guy to have on for sure.
That'd be dope. Becky Gallant came back and she says, "I love the bloopers and would love to see more. Your laugh and your smile is contagious. F the haters."
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I love the bloopers too. That's my favorite, man. That shit's so funny.
We had that one the other day. What was it?
Which one, dude?
No, the one that I couldn't say like.
The sloth. What was it?
Was it something? No, it wasn't. Was it?
Yes,
sloth?
it was. Yeah, it was when we were giving the sloth the bath, and you were like, "We can't have a something smoth or something."
Yeah,
like
I kept saying smoth. Yeah,
a smelly sloth.
A smelly sloth. I couldn't say a smelly sloth. I kept on saying, and I said it like 8 times. A smelly sloth.
To the point where I thought you were just saying it to make fun of yourself, and then you're like, "No, this is real."
No, I literally couldn't. I couldn't put that sentence together, but
it was great though.
Yeah, it's all good.
Let Rose's bird get
Which,
back.
by the way, the other day, the other day, I'm sure you had to have noticed. It was like I can't remember what I said, but it was like. Instead of saying, I just want, whether it was like, this is a nice clutch or something like, anyways, twice I said something completely that wasn't the right word.
Yeah,
and I said it twice in a row where it wasn't even like the right,
it?
I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't even like, it made no sense whatsoever. and I find myself doing that more like when I watch the vlog now, because of course, Jay edits it.
Yeah.
So I'll watch it, and some things just aren't worth redoing. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to go, we need to redo this because I said something wrong.
Clarth instead of clutch.
Yeah, and I don't care about pronunciating things, but there's even some times where like I'll say something and I'll realize like I said the wrong genetics. Like I'll be like, oh, I got, like we did a thing the other day where I said, oh, we can get super specials from this breeding, but it was actually a pastel crystal to a Mojave. So obviously you can't get super specials from a Mojave. You can only get super Mojaves. But I wasn't going to go back. But I'm sure someone would be like, Brian doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's saying he's go get super specials from a Mojave.
And I always try to catch it if I can. But sometimes I'm like interested in what you're saying too. So I'm just listening, you know.
But I saw that the other day. I was like, oh boy, I screwed that one up.
Everyone's going to think I'm an idiot.
You got to remember, there's so much going on in a day, and sometimes I goof up. So hey, man.
No big deal.
I'm human.
I mean, you got to think. You've said so many words in the last 4 years, like way more than anyone else. So, that you got to leave.
There's a lot of words.
Let Roses Burn says the red tail was owned by a man who recently passed away, and the family didn't want it. She went to assess it today after work, and the fam put it in a bucket.
In a bucket,
and she had a straight face with that.
Huh? That's weird.
Why would they put it in a bucket?
Why they put that snake in a bucket?
What the fuck?
I don't know. That's a weird one, man. I don't know, but like I said, who knows what it is? You can, by the way, you can send me a picture. I'd be happy to tell you exactly what it is. It's super easy. You can message Jay. You can email us at the BHB website, whichever, Reptarium website, whichever you want. Just put attention, Brian, and I'll be happy to look at it.
Mama Tomsky came back and says, "So, Bri, where's the book of Brian's life? Come on, sit by your lake and start writing. We could get
it's funny.
We would come to your sign off." She said,
"It's funny because
this here is Brian's book.
This is my book. It's only 2 pages.
Yeah, but it's a great manifesto."
Yeah, I don't know. There was a note that is not here that actually said, which by the way, I want to see. I just wanted you guys to know, because you guys need to buy this book, man. I'm telling you. How do you buy it? Let's see.
Are you talking about the Lizard Man book?
Yeah, the Lizard Man book. It's livingartpublishing.com. Livingartpublishing.com is where you can buy this book. So, and he was from the Netherlands. He was 74 years old when he passed away.
Wow. Not that old.
Interesting. So no, that's misinformation, by the way. He wasn't 74. I'm like reading this like as I'm going through things, but and he was in Alabama, not South Carolina.
Okay.
He created the world's first and only zoo of the side of a volcano mountain.
Yeah.
in the Canary Islands, eventually settling into a small town in Alabama and creating the world's first and largest breeding facility, Agama International. Wow. It gives me chills, man.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool story, man.
Wow, it's amazing. So really cool people. I mean, not just amazing reptile people, but cool people. But my point was, when I was looking at the notes, was that he sent a note saying, when you're ready to do your book about you, I'll do it with you. And
that's awesome.
So I am actually writing a book. Haven't started, but I have signed a contract with the company to write a book. But it's gonna. So I want to write, and this was before Russ sent me these. So they want to do like a series of books, and so the first book will be more of like a story time book, not so much. But the ultimate book is like the story of this crazy life that I've lived. But they're saying they'd like that to be maybe volume 3 or 4 before. So they want these smaller, kind of easily digestible kind of stories, like of the adventures I've been on and the animals we've met and so on, like that, maybe a little bit more digestible. And then ultimately maybe in after 2 or 3 books of writing with this company, and they work with, Barnes and Noble and everything else. So big company. Then we would move on to writing maybe more of a memoir-ish type of a book like this. And so that's
Stay tuned.
It's coming. It might be a while, but it's coming. I always say that the last chapter hasn't been written yet, so I hope anyways it hasn't been written.
Just leave some pages blank at the end.
Yeah, at the end. I'll just be filling your own.
Yeah, color in whatever you want. Keith says, hey, Brian.
He keeps monitors in racks. That'll be the last.
What was the other thing we said today? What else did you? Oh, I forget. Dude.
Is it the gag order? Or
no, it wasn't a bad thing like that. Like it was, I don't remember. Don't worry about it. But it was something we were talking about upstairs. I was like, if there's 2 things Brian does, it's something and then that. Yeah,
keeping monitors in racks.
Keith says, hey, Brian and Jay, finally caught you guys live. Hey. If I was to breed 2 snakes in quarantine, would I have to quarantine the eggs? Have a blessed day.
No, I wouldn't think so. Very few pathogens pass from adult. I mean, some pathogens do pass from adult to babies, but the idea of like something passing from an adult to an egg and then infecting another egg. I mean, don't put the eggs together. If they're in the same incubator, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And most of the worst pathogens don't pass from
through the eggs.
Yeah, so that's I would think, I mean, be cautious, but very. I'd be
never
very
heard of
surprised.
anything in 30 years.
I'd be very surprised if something happened, but I'd love to know what you're quarantining for that. That'd be interesting.
Stephanie says, good evening.
Good evening.
Happy to catch a live again. How come you switched your ball pythons back to paper? No judgment, just curious.
Yeah, so there's a number of reasons for this, and I actually was just talking to Miguel from Always Evolving Pythons about that. Number one, to be honest with you, the husbandry is better on paper than it is on bedding, because you're just really cleaning a little lump of poop every week on the bedding, whereas you're disinfecting the entire cage when you're doing that. Now, it does take more work. There's more time doing it on paper is the other thing. But Miguel was saying he was thinking about switching to paper or liner, and a lot of people do keep ball pythons on liner. And one of the biggest reasons is during the breeding season, when a male is breeding, you're going to lose some hemipenes, right? And on bedding. Because all that bedding gets into their hemipene when a female pulls out, or if they're stretched a little bit, and then that gets into the hemipene pocket, it becomes infected, and then you lose.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's every single year you'll do that on bedding, whereas on paper that doesn't happen. And that's why you've seen the blood trails.
Dude, of course, yeah.
That blood trail would now have gumping amounts of bedding that have now impacted your animal's hemipene. So those are the reasons for now. And listen, I know some people, it's a weird thing. For some reason, people feel that paper is less enrichment than bedding. And I don't know what enrichment bedding is giving an animal. I mean, I guess you could say they could burrow, but
just moving through it. Yeah.
But besides that, I don't know really what the advantages are. Listen, I don't know how I feel about keeping any snake aesthetic, in these days. If I had my way, I would keep everything like the Reptarium. But I've said that's the age-old battle, right? It's like, okay, if you want me to keep my ball pythons and everything like the Reptarium, then my ball python prices are going to be 5 times what everyone else's prices are, which means no one's going to buy them from me, and then I'm going to be out of business.
Yeah, so it's really true.
Like,
it's true.
It's kind of like, I've always said it's the free-range beef compared to normal farm beef, right? It's that argument. People don't like beef being kept the way they are. I certainly don't. But what percentage of the market is buying free-range beef that is 3 times the cost? And the answer is 3%, because I know that, okay? So 3% of people are willing to pay the extra money for the fact that the animals are being kept. 97% of people probably don't feel good about it, but aren't willing to put their money where their mouth is, right? They're going to still buy the beef that comes from the big manufacturers, right? So, and that would be the exact same number, I guarantee you, with the reptile side of things. If I kept big enclosures that were beautiful, universal rocks and all this enrichment, and that's how I bred stuff, but my snakes were 3 times the cost. 3% of the people that would want to buy a snake would buy from me, and 97% would buy from the other guys that are keeping them just the way I am. Now, that doesn't make it right. Just like the beef thing doesn't make it right. I think it's a little different. I think that a snake isn't a cow. Cows are more intelligent. They're mammals. They do need more enrichment. They do suffer more if they're trapped.
More conscious thing,
But that being said, I'm not trying to make an excuse. And I've always said, and I'll continue to say, that I struggle with this daily. Yeah.
It's something we always talk about.
Yeah, and it's something that may eventually cause me to stop breeding snakes because I'm struggling with them. I'm always evolving, right? I'm always evolving my ideas and my concepts. What I did 8 years ago isn't what I do today. And that's why it's a bummer. Sometimes I'm judged by what I did 8 or 10 years ago when I've changed so much as a human being in the last 8 to 10 years. But yeah, so I know that was a long-winded answer.
No, you're good.
But that's why we switched back to paper.
Doc Holiday says, hi, Brian.
Doc, what's up?
My Cayman lizard died from underground reptiles. He seemed something was wrong. No refund or replacement, just a discount. Thoughts?
It's always tough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough when you lose an animal, and it's always tough for me to comment on some other business practice when I don't really know all the
whole
details.
situation. Yeah.
So the way BHB works and the way Underground or so many other people work are very, very different, right? And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, they are buying and selling everything, right? I mean, they do produce tegus and a couple other things, but for the majority of things, they're buying and selling stuff. And when you buy from them, you should understand that the majority of the stuff that they're selling are wild caught or captive hatched over in South America or Africa or wherever the case, the animal that you buy are from. So you're not buying a captive bred animal from BHB or from any other said breeder. You're buying an animal that isn't captive, right? And so I'm not saying you should assume some risk, because I don't know if I agree with that either. But at the same time, it's harder for those companies to replace an animal or even give 100% refund as compared to us. Like we do. I mean, period. I mean, like if someone buys an animal from us, a month later it dies, you're getting a refund or you're getting a new animal back or something like that. Yep. But that's because we produce it. We have a different mentality. But again, I don't know, the whole situation. I will tell you that it's not uncommon for Cayman lizards to not survive, to be totally honest with you. They come in once a year. They are all either wild caught or captive, captive born in a facility out of the country. So they're still prone to parasites and there is a relatively decent percent of them that don't survive. And you probably didn't know that, I mean, most people wouldn't, but it is true. It's the fact, and so yeah, it's a bummer. But again, I will say I've done business with Ryan from Underground. I've known him for a number of years. I think that when you're talking about the type of business that they are, which is an import business mainly, not exclusively, but mainly, I think that they're still one of the better ones. I mean, they do take care of their customers. Most of their animals that are sold are very, very good. And our experience have been with them have always been really good. I think that, you're just in a bad spot right now, and it sucks, and it sucks because, I wish someone was captive breeding. Now, ironically enough, there's a couple zoos that breed Cayman lizards. And every now and then, the zoo-bred animals are available. Now, they're quite a bit more money, but they're worth it because they're true captive hatched. True captive bred, and they're going to thrive. But like I said, I mean, we're talking like less than 20 a year are born in the country. So I don't know why they seem to be so hard to breed. I don't, because I know a lot of people that have tried.
Yeah.
Most people, even Tom Crutchfield, he was like all gung ho on breeding them and never even got eggs.
Wow, really?
And he's really great at breeding stuff. So
he got eggs from croc monitors, right?
He got
which
one.
is like another one.
As a matter of fact, Toothless Reptiles just got a clutch today from
way.
Second clutch. This is their second clutch.
It's
so
huge,
they got
man.
2 clutches in the incubator. So Tom only hatched one baby, which was still a huge accomplishment. May have been the first actual captive bred and born croc monitor in the country that I know of. I could be completely wrong, so don't quote me on it. But I think that's what it was. But Toothless actually produced a clutch before Tom's hatched, and now has a second clutch on the ground, which is pretty freaking dope.
Dank J says, been really low lately. Thank you to all of you for being so supportive. Much love.
Well, Dank, I get it, man. And listen, there's a real world energy in the world these days. So a lot of people have been down and, something to work on hard. Obviously I continue to work on my anxiety and I have up days, I have down days, more better days than worse days these days. It used to be more worse days than better days. Mm-hmm. So things are getting better, but it's like I always say, you got to work on it. You know what I mean? You got to work on it hard. Your mental health means so much, and you can get through any ups or downs that you're having, whether it's depression or anxiety or whatever. It's just a matter of how much you want to put into it. Hey, listen, life isn't worth living if you're not enjoying it. You know what I mean?
So true, man.
So it doesn't matter what you have, what you accomplish, whatever. Again, last year I had everything I could ever want. Money was great. Business was great. Everything, my friends, my family, everything was great. And yet I was in hell.
Yeah.
Mental hell. So it realizes that, you got to get your mental house in order and work hard at it. And we're here for you, man. I believe in you.
Yeah, 100%. And literally both the people that are talking to you right now have both been through heavy shit, so you will get through it if you keep trying.
Yeah, you just got to keep trying. Don't settle.
Yeah, definitely don't.
And that's some people do that. I'll be honest with you. When I talk to people that are like, "Oh, I've suffered from anxiety for 25 years,"
you're like, "What?"
I'm usually like, "Well, then you settled for 25 years for that pain." You don't have to settle for that. If you work hard, you don't need to suffer.
Yeah, you will be happy.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I mean, it's not. It's fuck. If I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and be like, "Oh yeah, no, it's easy." Yeah, just do this and you're good.
Yeah, you'll be fine in 2 days.
It's hard, man. It's fucking hard, and especially when you do it without medication.
Well, it's hard to the level of like kicking an addiction, because it's your brain's almost addicted to being in that mental state of being depressed or anxious. So it's literally very difficult. It's like trying to break addiction.
It's like rewiring your brain.
Exactly.
Is basically what it is. But you can do it, and I feel like if you do it without medication, you get there and you stay there because you've actually created, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, you've actually like literally fixed the problem and rerouted your brain cells the right way. So. But again, man, just hang in there, bro.
We love you, brother.
It'll get better, man.
Game of Morph says, my name is Josh. My favorite is Salt. My wife has narcolepsy, and I won't fly. She cannot travel alone ever again.
No.
You ever in Vancouver, Washington, we would love to take you fishing. Her dream is to meet Salt. We'll bring her out.
Yeah, I don't know. I might. I talked about fishing earlier and I don't know anything about fishing. Sounds like it's a great thing to do.
And in Washington, it's got to be good.
Washington's got to be great. I have not been to Vancouver, Washington, but I've been in the area. I've been all over the Pacific Northwest, and in the Seattle, Monroe area, all the way, Mount Rainier, all that stuff. So I'd love to come up there and meet you and hang out with you. Narcolepsy's tough, man. I mean, I worked with a guy back in the day when I actually worked for a little while.
Is that where you just fall asleep?
Yeah. You just
just wanted to make sure I
saw this. Actually, I'm not making fun of your wife at all. Please don't take it this way. But you got to see a little humor in some of it.
Yeah,
and so this guy, it was a machine shop that I worked in for a brief period of time, just because I was like, if this snake thing doesn't work out, I need a job.
Yeah.
It was the worst time of my life, by the way. Ironically enough, when I quit that job, and by the way, when I started, I was like the lowest guy in the totem pole, and when I quit, I was the head guy. So in a very short period of time, I always say you can't be a good boss if you're not a good employee. And apparently, I was a pretty good employee. That I was running the whole department when I left. But one of our machinists, he had narcolepsy, which is horrible. Again, I'm not making fun of it. It's a horrible, horrible disease. But he would. I saw him fall asleep while he was walking. He'd be walking mid-walk and fall asleep and just literally like tumble. One time, he often was late to work because on his way to work, he'd fall asleep. And then like one time, I swear to gosh, I was driving to work and his car was just parked on the lawn where and I looked in there and his head was just on the wheel, sleeping.
Yep.
So he literally fell asleep, went up onto the lawn, and then just shut the car off and went to sleep.
How does this happen? Like, what is the mechanism that allows you to just do that?
It's really a fucked up thing, man. I mean, and I feel really, really bad for anyone that has it because it's a very bad disorder.
And does that stay with you for life? Like,
there are medications, but again, the side effects of some of those medications were really tough. This guy was trying all kinds of different medications. What ultimately happened, which was a bummer for him, he literally had this. Do you remember the car, the Rabbits?
Yeah.
It was like this horrible car. It was. I don't even know who made Rabbit. Volkswagen. I don't even know who made them, but they were called Rabbits. And one day, he was a smoker. He's a smoker, And so one day he comes into work.
It was Volkswagen, by the way.
Yeah, Volkswagen. Okay. And so he comes into work, and like 20 minutes later, one of the guys from the outside comes in and goes, "Hey, someone's car's on fire."
No, of course.
And literally what happened was he was smoking. He fell asleep and his cigarette fell down. And then he woke up and forgot he had the cigarette, and he came to work, and his car literally went up in fire. I mean, the fire department had to come and everything.
My God.
And we all making the joke about the fried rabbit,
Oh, no.
But yeah, he lost his car. That was the end of that.
Yeah, I could not imagine living with that. That's a crazy, crazy thing. I mean, to really think about. Like, you're like editing, and then you just... out.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't control when you fall asleep, and it's a horrible thing. So I like I said, I'm not making light of that disorder at all. It's a horrible thing. But so yeah, she definitely doesn't want to drive or travel on her own for sure. But yeah, let's stay in touch, man. We'll get up to the Pacific Northwest again, and in Vancouver.
Oh yeah.
Both sides of the border. Vancouver is supposed to be amazing. So
I couldn't imagine.
Can't wait to get up there. So let's stay in touch, man. Let's hook up.
Mac Lorenzo, the Mac attack.
Mackey's back.
He says, hypothetical. You're granted endless funds and a choice of land to open the biggest wildlife park in human history. But you can only keep animals native to the continent you choose to locate. Yeah. Which one? Good question, Mac.
Well, there's only two answers. Well,
there's only two answers.
There's two answers. I mean, there could be a third. There could be a third.
Yeah.
But obviously Africa, Australia is the two main, right?
Wow, really? I thought you were going Africa, Indo.
Indo would be the third.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. The third could be Indo. And don't get me wrong, Indo's got a lot of great stuff. I mean, obviously Komodo would be the best, Then other than that, you got kind of a lot of stuff that everyone sees already anyways. You know what I mean?
But it is continent. So that means all of Asia.
Oh,
so you get tigers,
continent.
You get so much stuff.
Can you go continent though? Because
that's what he said.
Because continent is like, I mean, I'd say you have to go country.
You gotta go country.
You gotta go country.
So what you're doing, like Zaire, Africa?
No, I think South Africa would be the way to go. Because they have almost all the diversity minus ball pythons and obviously West Gaboon vipers, but they've got East Gaboon vipers and stuff like that. But when you really look at all the cobras and the Mozambiques and bandits and I mean the list just goes on. Snouted cobras, house snakes, vine snakes. I mean the list just goes on. I mean South Africa has a lot of herpetofauna. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that if if you're talking continent, I mean, then Australia would probably be out because it's just small.
Yeah.
Africa, at least you would have the entire continent of Africa. So then you have east, west, north, south, everything. So then you would only have Asia and Africa would be the only two continents that would make sense.
What about South America, like the Americas?
I think South America would be great, but I don't know if a reptile place would be the place down there. I mean, don't get me wrong.
It's a wildlife park. You don't need to have only reptiles, Brian.
I know, but I'm a reptile guy.
You got some red tails. You got some tree boas, anacondas.
Then I'll go the same thing. Then it's probably Africa because Africa does have. I mean, I guess you're right. Tigers in Asia, but Africa has the big five. It has. I mean, Africa. I mean, Africa, the continent of Africa. I think you got to go Africa.
So Brian goes to Africa. I'm going Asia on this one.
I could see it. I mean,
I just like all the colors over there, man. They're pretty animals over there.
I get it.
They're both beautiful though.
But yeah, I mean, there's I get it. There's no real wrong answer unless you say Antarctica.
unless you're saying
Antarctica. You could have penguins.
Dude, there's a hole in Antarctica that goes to the middle of the earth. There's probably tons of animals down there. So I might even change it.
That's true, man. Journey to the center of the earth.
Mick D says, "Hey guys, hope you have a great weekend ahead."
Yeah, it's almost over.
I love following along with everything at the Reptarium at BHB. Jay, if you could check your Instagram, I shot you a message. Peace.
Ooh.
Awesome. Shoot me one more just so I can make sure.
Ooh, we got you a message.
Oh, baby.
Don't be sliding into
my DMs. That's for sure.
No, it's but yeah, no, I gotta keep thinking about that Mac Lorenzo thing.
It was a really good question, man.
Great question.
Mac's
I just think that if it's country, it's better. Just because it's then you have to be real specific. You know what I mean? Like continents are just so big. Yeah,
of course they're big. They're huge.
Yeah.
Let Roses Burn. She sent me the picture, and it is a BCI. So
okay, yeah. So it's a Colombian. Yeah.
Yeah, Colombian. And she says, "Thanks for the info, Jay. My friend is stoked because she wanted a red tail, couldn't find one, and decided on a blood python who is now a year old.
Okay.
And she can finally handle. The boa looks very chill already."
Good. Boas are usually really good. They're really good animals. I want to do before we go. Let me do something else here before we hit any other supers.
Can I hit one more? We got just this last one, and then we don't have any right now.
Okay, cool. And then you guys can hit me with some more.
That's
supers
what I'm saying.
if you guys want.
Keith says, "Okay, thank you so much. I have an albino black pastel male and a pewter G-stripe female. Reptile Army. Getting my gear next week. Thanks for all you do."
That's awesome. Again, today we saw some Reptile Army swag upstairs at the Reptarium. So it's great that movement is picking up and keeping on going. And like I said, we've got some new stuff that not only new swag that will be coming out, new merch and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I don't know why. I'm going to check really quick. I don't know why. For some reason, still nothing. For some reason, they haven't gotten back to me in the last few days. I'm assuming someone's maybe out sick or something like that, because they're usually really good at responding to me. But so I wanted to launch this next week, the next series of merch, but I can't just launch. I've got to get
everything needs to be coordinated.
So hopefully next week. But beyond that, we have some really cool stuff too. So this is interesting. These are our receipt books. This is so from cool, from April 24th, 1999.
When?
So I just want to look at, Brazilian rainbow boas, $60. Let's see, I'm going to go through. So this is another retail one. So that was retail. This is retail. Now we get into wholesale, which is the majority of this book is wholesale. Almost, as a matter of fact, I can look again down the list. Almost all these are like wholesale orders. So this one's Sinaloa and milk snakes, $35. Gray bands, $45. Pueblans, $30. Cal Kings, $20. Banana Cal Kings, $25. Black and white Cal Kings, $23, which is really weird. Albino Cal Kings, $22. Albino Desert Cal Kings, $25, which, by the way, I have high white black and white. Albino black and white Cal. Sambo is $27, which is weird. Brooks Kings, $25. San Diego Gophers, $25. And Leucistic Texas Rats, $45. So this is this snake.
That's
I would
crazy,
say,
man.
Yeah, so there was 1, 2, 3, 8, 10, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20 snakes. The total was $527. I would think that this would be at least $1,200 to $1,500 worth of snakes. And then what do I say? I want to read this note. This is Lori's note, and it was 2 Kenyan Sambos for $45. It says these Kenyans are eating live pinky mice. Sorry about the delay. I don't know what that means.
But that's so crazy, right?
But just think it's 1999.
Time portal.
I mean, it's and you can just go down the list. I mean, almost all these are like, almost all these are wholesale orders. I mean, I just looked down the list. It's like, and that's the thing. Another, big wholesale. This guy was actually a company out in Delaware that he ended up going to jail.
Oh.
Yeah. So we used to sell him a lot of stuff. Let's see. A medium San Luis Potosi King. So this is interesting. So the market must not have been good in '99, because I'm looking at this list, and what medium would mean would be yearlings, right? So we've had them for an entire year. So we've got medium Leucistic Texas Rats, $55. Now they sell for $100 for babies. Medium Banana Cows, $30. They sell for like $50 to $70 for babies. So medium Brooks King Snakes, $20. Which is crazy.
That's
a year old. I mean, probably ate $30 worth of food. Medium San Luis Potosi's $50. Medium Pueblans, $30. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. It's just kind of fun to look back on this.
It's history, man.
And
That's
think
so
that
cool.
literally 20 plus years ago, we were selling this stuff. And I really got a kick out of the show thing, because again, it showed me this, again, December with Columbus. This is Hamburg. And this was kind of an interesting thing. Like, I mean, you see, like we had 15 total sales in December in Columbus, Ohio. But then we get down to Hamburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's a good show.
And we had 28 sales. So
isn't it weird though? Like it's almost like you can transport back to the table and like handing the person that snake and them handing you the money. Like that's so cool, man. Love
it was
that.
just such a different world back then. I mean, obviously that was pre-internet. That was I mean, again, we were producing a lot of animals, and we had no way to retail out those animals. Because there was no websites or anything like that. So obviously, as a matter of fact, back then in '99, you couldn't even FedEx to someone's door. So if someone bought something, you would have to ship it Delta.
Wow, really?
So you either met them at a show,
crazy.
they came up and picked it up, or you shipped it Delta. So obviously, if someone was buying, and Delta was like $100 to ship, and I'd have to drive. You know how far the airport is away. It's almost an hour away. So
It's a hike.
we'd have to drive an hour to drop it off, and then you'd have to, sometimes be at the airport for an hour before they accepted it, and it wasn't like you just dropped it like FedEx, like, okay, bar scan it and you're good. And, it was always this like big drawn out thing. Oh, we got to check the flights, and we got to make sure that everything's good, and give me your license.
You know
and
how great TSA
fill out,
is.
Yeah, and So it was quite the to do, you know. So the majority of business was either shipped again, you know, Delta, wholesale with big quantity, or at reptile shows, or when people would come visit. So that was how things went back then. It's wild to think how things are different now, because we don't do any reptile shows
Right.
at all, and you know,
Still able to sell everything.
Everything is sold FedEx. You know, we have some pickups, but not very often. You know, so it's wild how things have changed, isn't it?
Yeah, dude, it's totally crazy. And I mean, it's not that long of a time, too. You know, it's not like we're talking about 100 years ago. We're talking about 20 years ago, 21 years ago.
Yeah, and you think about how, you know, what's the next iteration of change that's coming. You know, and again, this goes back to the Reptile Army thing. I won't talk much about it, but you know, I think there is another iteration of collecting reptiles that will be, you know, getting launched on Reptile Army in the next, you know, couple months. And so I think that'll be an interesting play that'll happen that we're working on diligently hard. And yeah, so we'll talk more about that when we can, but not now.
Mama Tomsky says, Brian, love the fact that you brought to the table the books and your receipts and stuff to show us what things were like with pre-internet. Good deal.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was such a weird world. I mean, listen, you know, I'm not one of those. The thing about me is I'm not one of those like old timers that's like, oh, back in the day things were good.
Yeah,
Now it's sucky. I'm actually the opposite. I really embrace technology.
Today, yeah.
I embrace the future. You know, I can't wait for self-driving cars. I can't wait for, you know, more virtual reality, maybe augmented reality. I can't wait. You know, I've told people, you know, the people that are like, oh, they're chipping you when they're vaccinating. I've told people like, hey, if they told me right now you could have a chip where I walk into Target and they go, hey, Mr. Barczyk, how are you? I know that you like movies. That's aisle 2. I'd love it. I'd chip right now.
Yeah, chip me up, baby.
Put me in a chip.
Chip me up, Buttercup.
If I can walk out the door and literally just wave my hand and it charges my bank account, I'm out, man. I get that chip in me immediately.
That's what I'm saying.
And I know that there are the you know, religious people that are like, that's the devil.
It's the mark of the beast, Brian. Don't you read Genesis?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's Revelation.
Yeah, Revelation.
Genesis will be the other side of it. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, I get it, but I don't believe that, you know, chipping people, you know, would. I mean, you know, I don't know, man. I don't want to get into the argument of whether we should get chipped, but I'm just saying I'm not one of those guys that
is afraid of technology.
Yeah, afraid of technology. And so I can, you know, unequivocally say today is better than before. You know what I mean? Like back in the day trying to sell reptiles and
sucked.
It sucked. It was a hard thing. It was a lot more work. You know, again, you couldn't just get a text message like, hey, do you have this? Or, you know, an email, hey, I'd like to buy this. No, you had to get on the phone. Yeah, and I bet you, I am not kidding you, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, I bet you I spent 4 to 6 hours a day on the phone.
Yeah, I'm good.
On the phone. You know, like that was on the phone. As a matter of fact, I used to have a headset, you know, just like Beth has a headset now.
Yeah.
But I used to be working on snakes while I was talking to customers. You know, I mean, people call, ask me about this, that. I'd be cleaning and feeding. And, you know, you got to remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had no employees at all. Maybe we had one. I can't remember when we hired our first employee. I think Chewy was like our second employee ever.
No way.
Weirdly enough, we had one or two other employees before Chewy, I think, but we always had just one. It was just Lori, me, and one person.
Yeah.
And then and even with Chewy, when we first hired Chewy, it was that way. It was Lori, myself, and Chewy.
Oh my god!
And then Chewy, you know, was with us until we had like 15 employees when he finally moved away. So things changed a lot, obviously, you know, in the last 20 years, you know.
Yeah, no joke.
But yeah, I can honestly say it was much more difficult to be a reptile business and pay the bills back in the day. Now with the internet and people with YouTube and with all the other things, you know, it's really a different world for sure.
Tiffany says, I don't know. Do you know who Jizzy is?
So Jizzy,
you know Tiffany's Jizzy? She says, Jizzy Boo Boo, Jizzy's Boo Boo has healed completely, just upgraded all their tanks. If I breed her, what gene should I use? She is a super hypo bell albino. Super hypo bell albino. So I guess it's a gecko?
Oh yeah. Now I get it. Yeah, I knew that I knew this, and I was
you're
like,
what?
Super hypo bell albino. So essentially, it's a super sun glow bell. Super sun glow bell. So I mean I really like bold stripe with the bells, and I really like yellow, white and yellow with the bells. You can obviously go Raptor as well with the clip stuff. That's always good too. It wouldn't be Raptor; it would be Radar. Or so there's three. I can't remember. It's Raptor, Radar, and there because the three
right?
no
because
there's three albinos. There's the Rainwater, the Bell, and I think the Radar is the Bell one, and I'm so lost. I mean, there's
geckos
so much geckos.
It's another world.
And I was like really on the gecko thing for a couple years, and now Jessica does it all so much so that I don't even know, like I don't even pay attention anymore. But yeah, I would go white and yellow. I would go bold. I would go, and the thing is it's opposite. It's a little hard because you got the super hypo, so the hypo takes away pattern, right? And so if you breed it into bold, you might not get the bold pattern coming through because you're taking the bold, the melanin away or the pattern away with the super hypo. So it's a little bit difficult, but white and yellow would be a good option too. Something white and yellow bell.
Mama Tomsky says, Brian, Lori, Jay, Anthony, and family want to thank you guys for getting us through this pandemic with your vlogs and podcasts. I will never forget.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, obviously, your offspring, your spawn helped out a lot. That's for sure.
Love it.
But no, it's and yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you here in just a little over a month.
Yeah,
come down
and
to
we're
Florida.
happy to be able to do that for you guys. Believe us.
Yeah, it's and it's therapeutic for us too. At least me,
for sure.
It's like I've said, if I didn't have that purpose every day to get up and do the vlog and to do all the things that we've done, I don't know how I would have gotten through.
No, because it gave us some normalcy in the sense that, like, all right, well, we still got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, it did, and I'm grateful for everyone that has supported us through it, and I don't know what the future holds. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many. You think at some point you would like have a better handle on like where you're going, and there seems to be so many irons in the fire right now. And there's this fine line between balancing life and enjoying life and trying to aspire to do bigger things.
That's right.
And it's a tough, balancing act to really get on, to be totally honest with you. And I struggle with it daily, to be honest. It's like, it's really difficult because I want to do bigger and better things, and I want to have better experiences, and I have all these aspirations in life to do big things. Not that we haven't already done things, but you know what I mean? It's like, I just want to, continue to expand, and I've got all these ideas in my head, but at the same time, we don't know what's going to happen and what's going to transpire. And, like even with the expansion, we don't know. We've been working. One thing we do know is that we've been working, Jay helped me today and yesterday as well. We've been working on the New Caledonia gecko room, so it's looking good. You'll see that in the vlog in the next couple days. We're close to being done with the flooring and the walls and everything like that. And then we'll start actually next week building the rack systems for the actual enclosures, and then ZoomEd is actually sending us a whole bunch of enclosures, and then Universal Rock is sending backdrops, and so it is probably going to still be a month before that room is completely done, but over the next month you guys will be seeing that kind of process of that room building out and how cool that's going to look, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited for Jessica too, because I know Jessica really wanted to, that's like her personal space. She's going to be able to come down there and just kind of be in her own little area, her way to get away. She's going to love it. And it's also just one more place that people that are really cool gecko lovers, we can take and show this, because right now we have all these cool gargoyle geckos and lychees and some chihuahuas, and you can't really even see them because they're in totes, and
be cool to display those beautiful animals.
Be able to display and to bring people into a little miniature reptarium. And I guess if I ever thought that I was going to have like maybe back in the day, like a hobby, like I'm a hobby gecko guy. Like this is the room that I think I'd want.
Hell yeah.
Like I'm building like the room that I think I'd want as a gecko hobbyist. You know?
Like someone would come over your house and you'd be like, yo, come check out the gecko room.
Check out this gecko room. And
it's going to look fly.
So I think it's going to be really good, but we'll have that. But even like the expansion, I was, talking with my financial advisor yesterday about it. We still we're still in the discovery stage, of like, we're waiting back for the first conceptual drawings, and you got to remember the first conceptual drawings are just the very, very start of a long, long process of, what can we do? What can we afford? What will the city allow us to do? What makes financial sense? What's stupid to do? And then we'll slowly build out, this next iteration of what it looks like here. And I mean, I truly and fully, wholeheartedly believe it's going to be able to be done. Well, anything can get done.
No, I know,
but I think it's feasible to do. But there's that, and then there's all the other things that are on our plate. Like I said, other business ventures and things like that are just kind of floating around that we're trying to nail down. Reptile Army was a huge one for me. I mean, I've been that's been something that's been on my mind for months and months and months, and it's great to have launched that. We're now a month into it. We're about to get our first paycheck from the company at some point in the next week or so. So we'll write the first paycheck, the first 10% paycheck to US Arc. And then of course we're going to, start, figuring out where that other money goes to. We're going to do some other donation to some other places. We're going to, whatever, but it's a cool thing. And again, it's about a movement. To me, it's not about me, it's about the movement of keeping reptiles and loving reptiles. So hopefully, and it's great to see that people are supporting it for the most part. I mean, it's because I'm hoping that people aren't going to think it's just a Brian brand, but I think I want a community brand is what I want. Like I said, a movement. So hopefully it'll go well. So I'm super excited about that. But there's a bunch more that's coming up with the Reptile Army, and there's a bunch more stuff that is outside the Reptile Army that'll be coming up here this year too. So life is busy, but it's good, man. I think it's, and that's the struggle, right? I know I'm getting a little bit deep tonight, but
you're good, dude.
But it's a struggle of like, I always have this feeling like if you're not going forward, you're going backwards, and I think it's true. I think that in business, there is no level, right? You don't just like hit a plateau and then you just ride that plateau, because when you hit that plateau, you're typically declining, right? So it doesn't mean you have to hockey stick and go like, to the moon. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. But you do have to have this incremental increase in business constantly, or you're going backwards, and that's how people go out of business.
So true.
So there is that pressure that I put on myself, probably more than I should, to always be trying to strive and do things better and more, and also be an innovator, right? To do stuff that other people aren't doing. It's really easy to follow. It's hard to lead, and that doesn't mean that I'm doing things that no one else has ever done in the whole world. But typically, most of the projects that I get myself involved in, I try to be one of the first guys in the reptile business to do it, right? And what works in other industries doesn't always work in the reptile industry. So there's always that risk, that risk to reward, and you're going, all right, I'm going to do this, and it's worked. I've seen this work in this industry or that industry, but I have no idea if it's going to work. Will we, and one of the things that I know I'm being vague about, but one of the things that we're going to be launching with the Reptile Army here, by July, we don't know if it's going to work in the reptile world, because it's not like just buying a shirt.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna test it, and we're gonna see what happens, and you'll hear more about that as it goes.
Mama Tomsky says, love that spawn of something of mine. Just wanted to make you laugh like you made me laugh.
Yeah. Well,
that's me.
You can laugh at me instead of with me.
I'm a spawn. That's me. V-Dog also says, what's your best story about coming up to a snake in the wild?
So, gosh, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of them, but I think that probably I was in Savage's Crossing, Queensland, Australia, and I was filming for Discovery Channel at the time, and there was a taipan, about a coastal taipan, which is I'd say most venomous people would agree with me, maybe not, but I think if you ask venomous people what the two most sketchiest snakes to handle, most likely they're going to say black mamba and the coastal taipan, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's certainly, forest cobras that are really sketchy as hell, and then vipers are springy and stuff like that. But I think black mambas and coastal taipans are the two most mental of venomous snakes, and also extremely deadly, right? Those are both in the top 25 most fatal bites. And they want to bite, they not because they're mean, but they're very defensive, right? Yeah. So we came up on a coastal taipan that was a good 7 foot, pretty big animal, and it was on a little cliff. There was a river and then some rocky ground, and then it got really rocky, and it was about chest high in that little bluff.
Yeah.
and of course, you know, we got to catch it, right? I mean, we're shooting for Discovery Channel. There's not really, you know, it's not
There's
like,
no turning back.
Hey guys, I think I'm going to let this one go, you know? And so I was in kind of a precarious spot because I was like on, you know, like a couple rocks grabbing for this whippy long 7 foot plus
Murder snake.
Yeah. Murder snake. And ironically enough, not too long before we actually did a piece where we milked a captive coastal. And I was shocked at the venom yield, right? The venom yield was unbelievable. Wow. I mean, like, they're not just pumping a couple drops into you. They are flooding you with venom.
Jesus.
So those things are all going through my head. And by this point, I think that we had already caught, like, eastern browns, which are very mental, mulgas, which aren't really that bad. They're a little bit crazy, but they're not, I mean, I wouldn't consider them in the elapid category that is, like, scary. Yeah. But we'd done, like, tiger snakes, king browns, western browns, and maybe red belly blacks, which are pretty chill usually. But now we're in a coastal taipan. And so I was, at this point, the good news was I was already 20-something days into catching deadly snakes every day. So you get in a rhythm, you know, you feel a lot more comfortable doing it. And but yeah, I remember going up on that coastal and grabbing his tail and it flying back at me, and I was in this precarious position and ultimately, you know, wrangling with that animal for quite some time just to get it off the bluff. And then ultimately I got it down onto the banks of the river and just kind of had a go at it. You know, it was striking at me, flipping back at me. I would grab it, it would fly at me, I'd have to let go, and it'd grab it again, it'd fly at me, and I'd have to let go. And ultimately, you know, tired it out a little bit, tired me out a lot. We ended up getting it in a bag. I remember, like, at the end of that, like when we finally tied the bag, I remember like dropping to my knees in exhaustion.
Yeah, just like oh my God.
It was like I just ran a marathon. My body was like quivering. You know, I was so like my adrenaline was through the roof. My even though in the moment I felt calm as could be, I was obviously like, it's kind of like when I was handling Lilith.
I was literally just about to say
Yeah.
that. I was like, when you handled Lilith, you had the same thing. You were very calm, but as soon as it was done,
yeah,
it was almost like you were like broke down. Like,
yeah,
oh my
like
God.
You're exhausted. You don't even realize. You
Flooded
seem to be
with
so
emotion.
in the moment, but then when you're done, you realize you're like almost hyperventilating. You're like all of your focus has been on one specific thing to not die, you know? And so that's probably the most, I mean, there's other, many, I've caught a lot of snakes in the wild, but that was probably the one that stands out the most, to be totally honest with you. Of course, the retic in the retic cave was pretty special as well,
that's a
you know,
one.
because it was just so it was like you couldn't have set it up.
No.
I mean, you know, like we go through all of that travel and craziness and walk 5 to 10 feet into a cave and there's a retic. I mean, like,
Unreal.
it was almost like someone placed it there.
Yeah,
Like I think if I would have seen that video, I would have thought it was fake.
Yeah.
I
know what
like,
you're saying.
I like they brought that retic with them.
Come on.
That's a lie. There's no way they had that retic. But it was real. I mean, it was absolutely 100% real. And so that was pretty special too, especially something so iconic, like something that, you know, I don't keep coastal taipans, I don't keep mambas, but I keep retics, you know. And so to see an animal that you're so fond of, and to see it in its native environment is pretty freaking cool, man.
Unreal.
You know? And you know, really, you know, I'm sure that most American retic keepers, you know, the vast, I'd say 99.9% of them have never seen one in the wild, you know, and so it's pretty special that we saw one. You know,
Sherry says, "Hey Brian and Jay, that gecko room will be super for Jessica.
Yeah,
can't wait to get a peek at the Reptarium 3.0. And Reptile Army is exactly what the hobby needed to start the conversation going. Sending positive vibes."
Well, thank you so much, and I hope it is. I really do. I hope that, you know, people will use it as a launching point. To, you know, I talk about reptiles all the time. You know, no matter where I'm at, trust me. You know, I mean, it's weird. I guess it's been weird this last year, right? Because without the social side of things, it's been different, but in the past, you know, prior to that, and hopefully we're opening up back to where we're going to get back there. you would be out, and no matter where you were, people would be like, "Oh, you got reptile guy." And I always said, it's kind of like, remember that Howard Stern saying? They said, why do you listen to Howard Stern? And it was like, 30% of people said that they loved him and they couldn't wait to see what he had to say next.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and 70% of people hated him and couldn't wait to see what he had to say next. And it was kind of like the same thing with snake people. It's like, 30% of people love snakes and can't wait to hear your stories about snake, and 70% of the people hate snakes and can't wait to hear your stories about snakes. So like everywhere you go, you're like the guy that everyone wants to talk to.
Yeah, because your stories are going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, because it's like, what, you do what for a living? I sell houses, or I'm a banker, or I
got 10,000 snakes.
Yeah, and I'm like, you got what? You do what for a living? And no matter if people hate or like or not, you were always like the guy that was always, it was almost like, it always embarrassed Lori, because everywhere we went, I was always like the guy that everyone wanted to talk to about things. And I miss it. I miss it, not because I'm egotistical or narcissistic. It's just that, you miss that interaction of talking to people, and maybe hoping that person that you talked to went home that night and had a different idea of what a snake was.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's, now we do it in a different way here at the Reptarium, obviously, where people come through the door and they get an experience with reptiles that they never thought they could get. And then they maybe leave and go, wow, I had no idea reptiles were this way. You can train them. You can do this, they can be so docile. Because still, I mean, the thing that everyone asks when they walk through the door is, does it bite? Does it bite? Does it bite? Does it bite? And of course, anything can bite, but they are
typically
pretty,
don't.
Yeah, pretty bulletproof. But nevertheless, it's I hope Reptile Army is that, and I hope that people, the only fear I have. Not fear, I shouldn't say fear. The only concern I have, I should say, is that, the people that for whatever reason dislike me, whether they have and most of them dislike me for reasons I don't understand anymore. But I hope that they don't not want to support something for the hobby. And that typically is how it goes. I'm not going to support Brian, even though I've made it perfectly and abundantly clear that I'm not using the money from Reptile Army for myself. I'm only going to use it for education and for causes and stuff like that. But still, people will look past that and be like, no, I'm not going to support that brand, which is a bummer. I wish it wasn't that way, but it's just going to be that way.
But I think for the vast majority, more people love you than have that opinion, because, I mean, you have a small hate group on Facebook and you have a large following on social media. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's the loud few.
Yeah, the vocal minority.
So fuck them.
Yeah, but, so hopefully we'll keep on going and we'll get more people involved. And like I said, my vision of Reptile Army is very, very large, and it doesn't surface just around Brian Barczyk. It surfaces around the entire community, and beyond that, I would love to eventually launch lines within the hobby of certain people as well. Like maybe an always evolving Python line of Reptile Army, or whatever the case may be, some special stuffs like that. So we'll keep on working on it and keep on trying to change people's minds. That's what I believe in.
Deviant Glass said, "It's your glorious hair, Brian. It makes people jealous."
Yeah, that is true. It's my way. I look like a wreck. I was looking over. I'm like, my hair is all over the place.
We've been busy, bro. We literally ran all over today.
Yeah, today was a busy day. I mean, you guys probably see my energy isn't quite as high as it normally is, and it's Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm tired. I don't feel tired right now. I just feel a little bit lower key because I mean, we started the day putting flooring in, that was the start of our day. I mean, we spent an hour and a half on our hands and knees, working on flooring, and then the day just went from there. And but it's been a good day. It hasn't been a bad day at all.
Not at all.
Been a really good day, and I'm looking forward after we're done with this. I get to spend a couple hours upstairs with people at the Reptarium, and that's going to be fun. And it's interesting. I love this time of year because even when we close at 9, it's still light outside.
I know, so you don't feel like, oh my God, it's like time to go to bed.
I mean, for so long when we're doing these podcasts, when we got done with the podcast at 7-ish or so, you'd go upstairs and be pitch dark. It was like
you're like ready to go home and go to sleep.
And I'm like, oh shit, I got 2 more hours to hang out with you, here. But I, it'll be fun to hang out tonight.
For sure.
At the Reptarium for sure, and spend some time there. But it's Saturdays are always very long days because we have lots of events, we have lots of filming, and then today we had a lot of extra stuff going on too. So a little bit lower key. But I'm hanging in there, man.
Wild Boy Dev. Our boy Dev. He
Dev,
says,
what's up, man?
love talking about reptiles with those who listen.
That's awesome, man. And Dev is definitely a guy that you could see could do that.
Oh,
You
my
know what
God,
I mean?
yeah.
I bet you Dev every chance is talking about reptiles, which that's why I love the
it.
guy, is because you can see
Passionate.
the passion. And I think that's what really reptile people need to be like, is like, you can't like worry if you're going to be ostracized. You shouldn't be the closet reptile guy. And that's the thing, going back to all this old time, in the 90s. And you got to remember, this is 1999. I started in 1989.
Yeah.
So that BHB's business, the actual business license, was registered in 1989. Now, I was a hobbyist for a couple years, 2 or 3 years before that, breeding snakes. But when I actually started as a sole proprietorship, that ultimately turned into an LLC, that also turned into a C corp. But it started as a sole proprietorship that was filed with the state of Michigan in 1989.
So crazy.
So that's 10 years before these receipts is when I started working on reptiles. And so it's but my point is back then in the late 80s, and certainly in the mid 80s and then the late 80s, you didn't want to tell people you worked with reptiles. You know what I mean? Like It was like you were really a freak.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I still talked about it constantly, but I was definitely looked at as like the complete freak.
This lizard guy.
Yeah, even when I was in high school, people would kind of not necessarily make fun of me because I was like in a band and I was kind of like a whatever. But I was I was kind of a weird. My high school years were weird. Like I wasn't popular. I started getting popular more. I would never say popular, but I did hang out with like people, but it was because of my band, because we had a pretty big name band in the area. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I was still like kind of a snake nerd, reptile nerd guy, but also it was weird. Like I played sports, I played football, I played baseball, I was wrestling, I was track, I was pole vaulter, so it's like I was kind of, you wouldn't think that necessarily, and then I became kind of a stoner rock guy, but prior to that, prior to the stoner rock guy, like I had friends that were popular, but I wasn't in the popular group at all. Right. At all, like period. Like I wasn't sitting at the popular table. I had friends and I was friends with most of the popular people, but they weren't like hanging out with me and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was same.
And then when I was in the band, it was those popular, kind of more jockey guys. They didn't like me anymore either. But then all the other people because they're like, oh man, he's the freaking rock star, dude, or whatever. Yeah. But I still talked about reptiles all the time. So I would always, everyone always knew me at school as kind of the reptile freak,
R&V Reptile says, I've got a bounty on that ponytail.
Oh, fuck you, man. I don't know if it's Ryan or Ben. That's the problem. I don't know which one.
Both y'all.
But I don't know which one to tell you to go F off, man. Yeah. But ironically, no, I love those guys. And I hope that bounty is big because
his ponytail's long.
It's going to someone's getting shanked, man. I hope that they're going to, anyone that wants to put their life on the line. Actually, it was kind of funny because someone actually did seriously do that. Like this was like maybe 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. Probably 10, 12 years ago. But someone actually said at a show, they said they would give someone $500 if they said this like online, like I'll give you $500, and it wasn't like a vindictive like one of my haters.
No, it's just funny.
It was like someone like, hey, I'll give someone $500 if they cut his hair. And so a bunch of people came up to me at the show. It was a Tinley show, as a matter of fact, and they were like, yeah, so and so said they would give you $500, and I said, hey, if you want to die, you can do it.
Yeah, dude.
If $500 is worth you getting stabbed, then I would say go for it, because I will stab you. I mean, it's like. But
you're like, but I'm the one with the scissors already.
Yeah, exactly.
Cutting your hair.
Well, yeah,
so it's
but I got a knife on my.
Where do I find this knife?
I'll take your scissors and I'll stab you in the eye.
There you go.
How's that sign? But I always think it's kind of funny how people say that. They're like, oh, donate your hair. I'm like, well, like, can't I just donate without cutting my hair off?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like, do I have to cut my hair off to donate? I mean, I can still donate. I do donate.
Yeah,
I donate to the causes. I can still keep my hair. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Agreed.
We agreed on me being able to keep my hair, but
it is true.
But the R&B guys, I mean, right?
It's more of the symbol, right? Like that's what people want to see, the symbol of like I'm shedding my hair for this cause, and it's like, well, it's money. Money's fine too.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine, but no, Ryan and Ben are great guys. I mean, we love them both. So, whichever one of you monsters over there
is talking shit,
get
smacked.
I'm not sure. I see them in the chat saying, "What's up, peeps?" So tell me which one. I want to find out which one of them has the password. Do you think that Ryan doesn't let Ben have a password, or Ben doesn't let Ryan have the password?
Yeah, I think Ben's doing it.
So you think this is Ben?
I think it's Ben.
You think it's Ben? And
I'm calling you out. Is it Ben or Ryan? Come on, let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, let us know
Don't
in the
be
comments.
shitty.
We got to know who's doing the action.
Who do you think it is?
I think it's Ryan.
Ooh, okay.
But I could be wrong. The reason I say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I just think that I want to say that Ryan has more time to be on the internet. Because he's like kind of more like me. I think we're like more like where we're on the internet a lot. That. Whereas Ben maybe doesn't go on the internet a lot, but not a lot, but not as much. But maybe I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong.
Well, R&B, let us know. Stop being stingy.
Yeah, stop being stingy.
Stop being stingy Jersey
guys.
Bitches. You know.
I know.
Alex Rogers.
It's Ryan. See.
Damn, you were right, Brian.
And he said that they both have the password.
All right, so there
I figured for sure Ryan was like, this is what I was envisioning in my head. It was Ryan, and he was like, Ben, you can't have the password.
No, you're going to change all my shit.
Because you're going to embarrass us with that damn beard of yours.
Got him. Yeah, dude.
But he's a good dude, man.
Love him.
They're good guys.
Alex says, why are retics vilified in the reptile hobby as terrible pets? And why do you do you think they deserve it? It's a good question, and here comes a good answer.
Well, so first off, I'm not sure that they're vilified. I think that they do get a little bit of a bad rap. Because I think that where it started from was really when you had the out of the wild F1, F2 generations that were really high strung. Anyone that knows a retic out of the wild is typically pretty high strung. I mean, if you've seen Kevin's, I've been to other collections that have like out of the wild, because these guys, you got to remember, Nerd and some of the Jay and some of these guys, they were bringing, the first of their kind retics. Now you can't import retics into the country. You can't import retics or Burmese into the country. But you back then you could, so a lot of these mutations, whether they were, I remember when Kevin had the first golden child reticulated python down at the Orlando show. It was probably the second or third Orlando show. And, or actually I take it back. It was Daytona. It was actually Daytona show. It was the second or third first or second probably Daytona show, because Nerd used to be like ostracized to this like little area that was like offshoot. It was kind of he was always pissed off about it. Like, they put me over in this fucking corner.
They put me over here to the catacombs.
Yeah, don't put what's that thing? What's the thing? Don't put Blue in the corner. What is?
Wait, what are you talking about?
There's a movie. There's a movie. But
I don't know it.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
That shit.
I don't know if it's.
You always get me with that shit. You're like, say some crazy thing, and then you're like, what was that movie?
It was Patrick Swayze was in the movie, and it was like, don't put something in the corner. Someone in the chat, help me out, damn
us
it.
Out down there.
Don't nobody put so and so in the corner. Anyways, I digress. So these guys were importing, wild imported, retics, and they were nasty creatures, man. They bitey as hell. Kevin has one. Remember when we went into the basement of Kevin's old place, his condo, and he has that giant retic?
My God,
and he's like, this will kill you.
He's like mean as shit.
He's like, this literally will kill you. Like, this is the meanest snake you'll ever see. And it was a wild caught, giant 25-foot reticulated, 23-foot, whatever, reticulated python. So I think that's where they ultimately got their bad rap when it comes to temperament. Now, they can be still temperamental. Look at Lucy. What'd you got?
It's Dirty Dancing, and it's baby. No one puts baby in the corner.
No one puts baby in the corner. Dirty Dancing. Oh, fuck, I love it, man.
Even R&B hit it up.
Damn, Ryan. I bet you Ryan right now is watching Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, when I saw him like hanging out down here the other day, and on his phone it was on repeat.
Yeah, he's just
all weekend.
Is that was? I'm a maniac
on the road.
Yeah, that's what Ryan's doing every day.
Yeah, dude.
He doesn't have the hair for it though. That's the downside.
I know, he's got to grow that shit out.
Yeah, he's got to grow that shit out. But so I think that's where the original kind of stuff went down with retics, right? As far as pets go today, certainly, the vast majority of retics are unbelievably docile. They're very inquisitive, but they also can be a little temperamental too. They're not quite as predictable as, say, a Burmese python. But what it really comes down to is just that they're giant. and most people can't handle a giant snake, and I know people hate when I say this. I'm not against giant snakes. I'm not against people keeping giant snakes, but I do think that the vast majority of people that probably want a giant snake shouldn't own a giant snake.
I agree. I want one, and I definitely should not have one.
Yeah, it's just, when you get over 15, 18 foot, it becomes, listen,
dangerous.
It's dangerous. It can be dangerous. You'll see in a video, is it tomorrow?
No.
So the next day,
yes, that sounds
Monday.
Right.
So you'll see Monday a video of that almost went really wrong with Lucy.
Real close.
As close as you can get going really wrong. And I'm talking like, let's just put it this way, Jay the edutainer almost had a different looking face at the end of it.
Very different.
And thankfully everything worked out fine. But that's an animal that we know is temperamental, but we also know her very well. And so, and I've worked with her for, her whole life, 12 years, so I understand what she's about, and still an accident almost happened that would have been really bad.
For sure.
So I think that's why they get vilified, but they are really, truly amazing animals. They really are.
And then Let Roses Burn said, Dirty Dancing, nobody puts baby in the corner. She came with the super chat, though, like a gangster.
Like a gangsta. Everyone's hitting it now, man. It's like everyone's got that shit.
I know. They're all about to watch it tonight, thanks to you.
I know. It's like Netflix has this huge surge on Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, could you imagine? #1 in the United States.
Oh, my gosh. Look at that. So, although I think, what is the best Patrick Swayze movie? Probably Roadhouse, no?
Did you ever read I have seen Roadhouse, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know Patrick Swayze as well, So
yeah, I think I can only think Patrick Swayze. I think Dirty Dancing. I think Ghost, and I think Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse.
I don't know what else he was in. But those three are like his iconic roles, right?
No, 100%.
But I think Roadhouse was the
Donnie
best.
Darko.
What?
That's what it says. I don't know.
Donnie Darko. What the fuck is that?
I checked the Patrick Swayze movies.
Patrick Swayze.
I don't fucking know.
Darko.
I'm trying to see what else he did. Christmas Wonderland he did. Black Dog.
That was those were good. Those were blockbusters.
Yeah, pretty much Dirty Dancing, dude. Yeah. That's the biggest.
Roadhouse was awesome.
Yeah, Roadhouse is a good one.
Because it was like badass. He was like kicking everyone's ass, and he was like this like little dude that's like the biggest bouncer, right?
Yeah,
He's like he's gonna kill anybody. But that being said, I remember getting kicked out of AC/DC show, and it was the head of security was a little guy,
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, and he was it was just like brute force is what made him a good security guy, and so maybe you don't have to be giant. Although I was talking to my buddy Scott Smith, of course, who is giant,
the most giant.
Yeah, and he does a lot of security and bouncing and stuff like that. Like he does a bunch of he said that was one of the other things that he's already lined up for a bunch of festivals in Illinois.
Wow.
He does like security for festivals.
Yeah, and there's a lot in Illinois and Chicago and stuff too.
Yeah, so he said
Riot
he's already
Fest.
He said he's already like lined up for a bunch of festivals. So looks like it's going to be a pretty good summer for that stuff. And
can't wait.
It's pretty cool. But what else is exciting happening? Did anything happen exciting here today?
Ooh, we played with some cool animals, but besides that, I don't know if we did anything else.
I guess
crazy.
It's just been busy. A lot of eggs, and can't wait for baby season. I guess baby season officially is starting with the garters, and of course we've had some geckos,
children's Stimsons,
children's Stimsons, and then now we've got the ball pythons. At least we're cutting.
Yeah, they'll be out in a week or so, right?
Yeah, they'll be out within a week for sure. So should have that stuff. So it's heating up over here, and that's the only problem is we want to go to Florida. I want to go on a couple other trips. We're obviously going to the Wilbanks thing.
Yeah.
And that's in July, right?
Yes.
So this is the thing that, do you know what's the date on that? Do you remember?
I'll have to ask. I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
Yeah, because we're going to be in Florida. I almost wonder if we're going to have to go from like Florida right there.
It might be smart. If we're going to actually do it, it's probably the only way to do it.
Which is going to be nuts, man. It's going to be like, we're going to be gone for like freaking 3 weeks.
No, think about it, right? Because we're going to be gone for 10 days, right?
Right, yeah.
And then I would assume we get, say, the 22nd. We might be an extra like 3 or 4 days. I know it's not after the 27th.
Right.
So if we leave like the 21st, we would be there for like 4 or 5 days, I think. That would be the longest that I could see it. But yeah, I don't know off the top of my dome. So
shit! Let Roses Burn. I forgot about Point Break. That is iconic, man.
Oh, dude. Yeah, Next of Kin.
I've never seen Black Dog
and Point Break.
I've seen Next of Kin. It was okay, Black Dog have not seen. Point Blank epic. Yeah. I got it. Yeah, that's
I haven't seen that one, but I've heard a lot about it.
No, it's iconic. I mean, I agree. So I guess he did have some pretty iconic movies, didn't he?
Patrick Swayze was crushing.
Yeah, he definitely had some iconic movies. That's pretty impressive, you know.
And then AM Fractal says, "What's your opinion on super dwarf retics?"
I think they're great. You know, I think that obviously Garrett Cardle is kind of crushing on that side of it. I just saw he had like what he said. He always comes out with like the rarest super dwarf in the country, something like that. And I always am confused by that because they don't bring any more in.
I know.
You can't bring them in. So where did this come from? You know, I don't. You know, I don't know where he gets. You know, like, but I saw that the other day. Like he was like the rarest super dwarf in the country. And I didn't watch it because I was busy, but I was curious about that. Like, this is like the third time I think he said that he's had the rarest one, and I keep saying like, well, where did they?
He keeps killing the other ones.
Where are they coming from? You know, where are these rare super dwarfs coming from? But I think it's a good option if you can't, you know, obviously can't keep a giant snake, but you want to have a really cool retic. Now, keep in mind that you're not going to be able to have the color phases in the super dwarfs that you have. Because as soon as you breed them into albino or golden child or, try to get cow super dwarfs, you're adding size, right? So you're adding genetics
mainland
of
morphs.
Yeah, you're adding mainland or, some insular island stuff. So you can still keep them smaller. You can still keep them, instead of 5 foot, you could keep them 9 foot, but
Which is not bad.
But you're not going to, have a 4.5, 5 foot cow retic, I mean, eventually you could, because what you would do is you would add that, those genes in, and thankfully with the cow particular, both Ghost Stripe and Phantom are relatively smaller insular island type morphs. So then you could breed. Once you got a cow, you could breed it back to a super dwarf and get Phantoms, and because it's a allelic, you would get Phantoms and Ghost Stripes, and then you would ultimately raise those up, breed them back, and then you get a generation. Then you probably have to do one more generation after that. So it's probably a 10-year project. But in 10 years, you could get a 6 foot cow retic.
That'd be crazy.
If you're willing to 10, 12 years, so if you're willing to do it for 10 or 12 years, you could get there. So it's crazy. But
that's all I got over here, Bry Guy.
All right, man. Well, it's 7:00, which means that it's the witching hour.
I don't know what sound. I was trying to make a sound.
I don't know what the witching hour is.
3:33.
3:33. 3:33?
Yeah, half evil, baby. It's my mama.
I knew it was 3:00, but I didn't know it was 3:33.
I don't know either, but that's where I call it.
Okay, that's good.
I was there. I was up last night at 3:33 in the morning.
Holy shit.
Don't know why, but
oh my gosh. I was up at 4, actually.
See? I was calling you.
Yeah, see that? There's probably some sinister thing going on in the air.
Yeah, it's our chips, man. They're turning on. The 4G.
The damn chips in my arm. That
Bluetooth got connected.
Yeah,
middle of the night, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Damn, don't get that vaccine. Don't do it. That's the biggest
Leave more
for
me. I'm collecting them.
I know. This is my 6th shot that I've had now, and
who needs another dose?
Yeah,
Not me.
I'm ready.
All right.
So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Obviously, we are out till Wednesday. Wednesday is a checking in podcast. So that is it. Love you guys. Thank you so much for all your support. It means the world to me. And I look forward to seeing you soon. See you tomorrow in the vlog.